Good morning. It is on now. Yay! Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Bread Beckers. I just want to welcome you all here to our live cooking class, but we also want to welcome our live stream class. We're getting ready for the Christmas class. We're doing a trial run today. I had a few people we are live streaming too. We'll see how it goes. So anyway, and I'm always very nervous when they say they're recording me. I just wish they would not tell me. But anyway, I want to welcome you all to Bread Beckers. I am Sue Becker, for those of you that may not know me, one of the owners and founders here at Bread Beckers. Anybody here for the very first time? Anybody? Oh my, let's see, yay! Well, you came to a great class. You're going to learn how to make some of these beautiful breads. This morning, you started the morning with a Cinnamon Swirl Bread, and I'm going to show you how to make that beautiful swirl, as well as we can make it savory. So we're going to do an herb swirl and the cinnamon swirl. And how'd you like the pumpkin scones? I actually had forgotten about that recipe. You know, when you find recipes, you'll make them over and over and over then you move on to something else. And I was looking through my notes for my holiday bread baking class just to see what I did last time. And I'm like, oh, the pumpkin scones. I hadn't done those in 3 or 4 years. And the original recipe was actually made with spelt. I got it off of Martha Stewart baking show. And I was like, well, this is great. I don't have to convert it or anything. So originally I had made it with spelt, but I'm happy to tell you, I like spelt because it mills up kind of like soft wheat, but it also has a nutty flavor. So we have now found an organic soft red wheat that's grown in South Georgia, so Georgia grown. We're so happy about that. Much cheaper than spelt, so I use that for the scones today instead of the spelt. So be sure if you like that nutty flavor, and I also used it for the pie dough today because I like that nutty flavor. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through the class. And those of you that are new, I started realizing so often when I do these holiday classes or specialty classes, I don't show you milling and mixing at all. We are going to mill some flour and make some bread, so those of you that are old hat to this, you can just sleep through that part if you want or get a few extra tips. But I've prayed for you today. I prayed that God would strengthen me and give me clarity of mind. Sarah and I went out to dinner last night, and both of us, we couldn't remember anything. Couldn't remember the name of this thing, that thing. We were having to look it up. Couldn't remember the name. We were trying to think of the buffet, Ryan's. Couldn't remember that name. I'm like, it's kind of like Golden Corral. You know, it went out of business. Blah, blah, blah. We had to look it up, and then we tried to remember something else. I'm like, this is not a good sign. So I got up at 10 till 5 this morning and prayed for you and prayed for me. And I just really wanted to give you a word of encouragement this morning before we get started. You know, it's Thanksgiving season, and I know there's a lot of political, national, civil unrest. We got that going on. And then I know there's stuff in our own lives. You know, there has to be. And that doesn't go away just because there's big stuff going on. But twice this week, the verse came through my daily reading that it says, "The Lord God is my strength. He will make my feet like deer's feet, and he will make me walk on high hills." And I was like, wow, twice in 1 week, 2 different scripture references, one in 2 Samuel, one in Habakkuk, and there's actually another one in a psalm. And so I looked it up, and I thought, what's the deal about a hind's feet or a deer's feet? And actually, in some translation, it does say deer's feet, but it's specifically a hind's feet. And a hind is a female deer, and she particularly has very distinctive feet, and you won't look at those because they're tiny and small. She has the capability of, when she leaps with her front feet, she can put her back feet right where those just stepped, which enables her to do magnificent things and jump and leap. I mean, have you ever thought, you watch a deer, they can go 30, 35 miles an hour through an open field. They can leap over an 8-foot fence. And one morning on my walk, I saw one deer from a standing position leap over a 7-foot fence. That's a hind's feet. That's a deer's feet. And yet when we see a deer, We see the antlers. We see the white tail if you're in South, we see all these things. But it's their feet that make them be able to do the impossible. And so that's what, when I looked it up, one of the references is in Habakkuk. And if you've ever read Habakkuk, he begins by going, whoa, it's me, Lord. When are you going to answer our cries? It's just all this stuff. And it says, even in the midst of chaos, there's a way to walk in spiritual freedom and joy. Regardless of your circumstances, we can find the fullest measure of joy in the Lord. And Habakkuk's story provides great insight into how we can choose joy when things look bleak. He asks the same question that many of us have asked of God. How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? I cry to you, but violence, but you do not save. Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? If that doesn't describe what's happening, but then he says, but you make my feet like hinds feet, and you will make me walk on high hills. Let's pray, and we will get started. And thank the Lord for we have a strength that will give us that. Yes?
In this season, because of everything that's going on, we need to be in an attitude of praise.
Yes, attitude of praise, always, always, always. So, and interestingly enough, I follow the Hebrew calendar as well as the calendar that we follow. And tomorrow on the Hebrew calendar is the day that Noah came out of the ark. And Sunday is the day that he offered sacrifices of praise to the Lord. So think about that Sunday and just get up a little earlier and just offer a sacrifice of praise to God. Okay, enough preaching. We're going to start cooking. But we just need to pause and thank the Lord. So Lord, we just thank you for this glorious day. I thank you for this time together. I thank you for your abundant provision. And Lord, I thank you that you make our feet like hinds feet, able to do the impossible, able to leap over walls, able to run through a field. And more importantly, Lord, you cause us to be able to praise you in the midst of chaos as our eyes turn and look to you, and you are our strength and our hope, and our joy is in you. In Jesus' name, we thank you for the food. We thank you for the hands that have helped me prepare it. We thank you for this season. And may we not forget, it is a season of thanksgiving. Thanking you for all the many blessings, the harvest, and then thanking you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. All right. And did you enjoy the hot chocolate? Yeah. I always, for years, made hot chocolate like I would get our natural hot chocolate mixes. And one day a customer came in and she goes, I make mine out of the raw cacao. So I have a raw hot chocolate. And all it is milk sweetened with a little honey. I put the recipe in your recipe book in your handout. And then at the very last, after my milk is heated, then I'll just whisk in my cacao so it stays kind of raw. And raw cacao, just so you know, is full of magnesium, which is why women tend to crave chocolate certain times a year. It's really magnesium. So if you just take some magnesium, that would all be over. But typically, we've already eaten some chocolate somewhere before that computes. But anyway, and raw cacao is full of sulfur, and it's really good for you if you eat raw chocolate. So I enjoy doing that. I had a little cup last night when I got home after prepping all day. And so I don't usually make that in the class, but today I thought, I'm going to do that. It's real easy to make by the cup. You can just kind of scale that down, but yeah, and that's how I do it. And my honey, I have my little honey bear, and honestly, I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how much honey I put in my little cup. So just so you know. But anyway, little bit, yes, hon? Well, it's 4 cups of milk, so you're adding a little bit more, so probably about 5 cups, yeah. So anyway, little bit of housekeeping that I didn't go over at the beginning because I'm so excited about doing the class. There is coffee back there if you would on the table there with some additives, things that you can put in it, not additives. It's our organic coffee if you'd like to get that. Bathroom, this is a little bit longer class and I'm not going to take a break. I realize that. I really didn't fit that in. Feel free to stand up. I think we might get done early, even with me starting late, because I think we put it to 2 because of bread rising and stuff. Water is in the back cooler. it is iced down. It's our hydrate water. I see many bottles all throughout. If you can give a little dollar or so donation to Real Bread Outreach, that would be wonderful. Real Bread Outreach is the nonprofit ministry I founded in 2007 to get real bread, real food into the hands of those who truly cannot afford it, whether locally or internationally. In 2016, God called us to Haiti. We have 3 orphanages there that are baking bread for the kids. We've trained 3 teams of bread makers. And to date, I think it's about 2,200 children, school children that might otherwise not have anything to eat, are getting a freshly milled roll every day. And the kids that live in the orphanage are getting the bread multiple times a day. And in February, before everything shut down, we had the wonderful privilege of getting to Haiti and having the grand opening of the bakery that many of you helped build by supporting Real Bread Outreach. We have no employees, so every penny that you donate goes to support the ministry, to do the work of the ministry. This week, we shipped 4,000 pounds of wheat down with some backpacks and peanut butter and toothpaste and soap. Many kids will be getting that for Christmas. Wouldn't we love it if our kids would be happy with a backpack and peanut butter and soap and toothbrush and toothpaste? But thank you. Many of you donated to that, and it was just really, really cool. So, and then last year we were in Israel, and God called us to make bread or help make bread on Mount Gerizim, and we didn't get to go because of the shutdown, but we did get to ship ahead a mill and a mixer, and the founders there were already customers of ours. How crazy is that? On our tour last year, they were, oh yeah, we bought our mill from y'all. Anyway, we're okay. So just real happy about what God is doing. I think that's all the housekeeping. Your handout is before you, and we're going to get started. It is a little bit longer class. Like I said, I didn't even think about it till just now that I hadn't planned a break like I normally do in the longer classes. So feel free, stand up, get water, move around a little bit if you need to. All right, let's get started baking. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to mill our flour for our pie dough. This is something that I stress over and over and over at holiday time. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. You do not have to compromise and go back to white flour and white sugar even during the holidays. There's not a recipe that you cannot make with freshly milled flour. I'm just telling you. And no need to use white flour and white sugar. So that's why I actually love doing these types of classes right before the holidays to show you how to make all your family favorites. The cookies I'm going to serve you today I just found in the magazine. They were white flour, white sugar, brown sugar, and I just changed them. And I'll show you how we did that as we get going. So, pie dough. Let's talk about pie dough. Who's making pies for Thanksgiving? Yeah? Are you going to buy crust or are you going to make your own? I want you to make your own. After today, you're going to see how absolutely delicious you can make pie dough. And honestly, okay, it's going to look a little different. It's not going to be white, but I can just eat this pie dough when it's made with freshly milled flour. Pie dough, biscuits, scones. The key to those making those nice and flaky and come out the way you want them, cold ingredients, cold butter. Okay, so here's the tip I got to tell you. When you mill your flour is a little bit warm. So because of that, you either need to mill it and set it aside a little while for it to cool down. But what I typically do is I just mill it because I don't think about milling ahead because I don't do that. That's the whole reason I have a mill. And so what I do is I mill my flour and I stick it in the refrigerator or the freezer just to get nice and chilled before I make my pie dough. So that's the only really little extra step you got there. So I'm going to mill some flour here. I think that's soft wheat in there. And today, like I said, for the pie dough, I am using a soft red wheat. Okay, for those of you that have not been here before, have you seen the Wonder Mill? Nope? Okay. The whole philosophy behind what we do is mill your own flour. Mill your grain into flour when you're ready to use it. All the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients, all the fiber are there. Unlike store-bought white flour that has all the bran, all the germ, basically all the vitamins and minerals sifted away and leaving you only protein and starch and absolutely no fiber. The demise of American health. Doesn't really have anything to do with just gluten, but it's just that the bran and the germ, the vitamins and minerals have all been sifted away. Left whole and intact, grain is storable. I know those of you that already do this, you're like, I know all this. Well, grain is storable as long as it's kept whole and intact. Okay, I'm already missing my measuring cups. All right, so let me show you how to use the mill. So we're going to, there's a little cup. You're going to, hold on just a minute. Mia, I'm missing Mia. Hold on. They were right here. Up, here they are. I found one. If you can get me the gray one too, that would be helpful. All right, so whoops, there's a little cup. Flat side of the cup, we're going to attach it to the mill in right parallel to that little tab. Snap the lid into place. Make sure you hear that sound. You want to hear that snapping sound. The mill will grind any kind of dry grain or bean into flour, so it's endless what you can make with freshly milled flour. For Thanksgiving, I'll be making my cornbread from freshly milled corn before I make my dressing, thickening my gravies with bean flour, and just and now you're going to see my pie that I hopefully am going to make. So this is the new red wheat, soft red wheat. For pastries, you want to use a higher moisture, lower protein grain. So that's going to be your soft wheat, spelt. Even rye will give you a nicer texture, cookie, cake, or pie dough. Okay? So we're going to turn the mill on, pour our grain in. A cup of grain makes about 1.5 cups of flour. So I need 2.5 cups of flour for my pie dough, so I milled about 1.75 cups. Here's, I knew I had just seen them all here. So while the mill is milling, I usually get all my other ingredients ready, but since this is my pie dough and I'm going to chill it, I'm just going to wait till it's done milling. When you hear that pitch change, walk over, turn the mill off. This is why I love this machine. Besides making milling flour very, very doable and easy, it just cleaned itself. No other kitchen appliance cleans itself that I know of. So here is our freshly milled flour. Uh-huh. Oh, absolutely. It's the difference in flavor. Yes. So real quick, hard wheat, soft wheat. Hard wheat, high protein, low moisture. Soft wheat, just the opposite. High moisture, low protein. Hard wheat, you have to use for your yeasted breads. Anything with yeast. So you're going to be seeing me use hard wheat for the rest of the class as we make yeasted breads. Soft wheat is your cakes, cookies, pastries, biscuits, cornbread if you use some flour. So yes, and then flavor. Red wheat has a nuttier, richer flavor. White wheat has a milder, to me almost no flavor, but definitely more flavor than white flour. But it's a white wheat, okay? So look how fluffy and pretty our soft wheat flour is, but either one, absolutely, you can use soft red or soft white here. And for years, I actually used hard white because I didn't have soft wheat for 3 years when I was making bread. So it'll work. Just takes a little, it's a little grainier. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and measure my 2.5 cups of flour. Okay, so there's our 2.5 cups of soft wheat flour that I'm going to need for my pie dough. So I'm just going to stick it in the refrigerator. All right, my cup is overflowing here, so I'm just going to dump the rest of this out. All right, so we're going to let that chill for a little while, just until the flour gets cool, so that when we put our cold butter in there, it doesn't melt it. So yeah, it took me a little while before I figured that out. I was like, and I was like, oh, that's what's going on here. So now we're going to make some yeasted breads. And I need to check on my pies real quick. Gonna let them go a few more minutes. I think those apples aren't quite tender. So ladies, when this timer goes off, y'all can come get these very carefully. They're kind of lopsided on the tray, so they just kind of carefully take them out. You could even take them out one by one if you don't want to pull the whole pan out. All right, so that's our pies, and we're going to learn how to make those at the end of the class. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to turn in your handout, this is the Bread Beckers basic bread dough. I know for a lot of you, you've been here, you've made it all the time, but we're going to mix a double recipe. In the red book, it's on page 19. I did go ahead and include it in the handout for those that do not have the red book or, you know, just want that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a double recipe. A single recipe will easily mix up in the bread machine. So if you're just doing a single, very easy to just throw a recipe in here. But I'm going to mix up a double because I'm going to show you some really, really fun things to do with all this bread dough. Okay, so let's get our Ankish room set up. This is the Ankish room mixer that we sell here at Bread Beckers. This is the finest mixer in the world, and I can say that with what's the word see, I can't find the words. Confidence, there you go, yep. We actually have these in Haiti. Our bread teams use them there. The team of young men, teenage young men that make bread, they've been making since 2016, about 500 to 800 rolls every day. They use 2 of these mixers. They haul them up to the kitchen every day, and they make about 6 triple recipes with each mixer every day. Sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. And we have never repaired them, never. Never replaced a knob, a belt, nothing. They still keep going. So it's pretty amazing. And after I thought about that, I was like, you know, I've been saying this is the finest mixer in the world for many years. It really, really is. So I am convinced. It's the largest non-commercial mixer and the most uniquely designed. It was designed by Electrolux of Sweden in 1939, came on the European market in 1940. Late 80s, it came to America, struggled a little bit, and it's doing very well now. So it took a while to get its footing. So it's still made in Sweden, will always be made in Sweden. They're quite proud of this mixer. And we were hoping they would, when Ankish Room Motors actually bought it and themselves from Electrolux of Sweden, and we were hoping they would call it something just really easy to pronounce, but they're quite proud of their heritage, Ankish Room Sweden. So now we have it, Ankish Room, Zoharushi, yeah. So anyway, here's the deal. Ank, Zo, makes it easy, all right? Very uniquely designed. Scraper goes here, fits up against the side of the bowl. Roller, pull the pin up, bring the spring-loaded arm into the center, push the pin down the center of the roller. This little wheel rests up against the side of the bowl. One click turns it on. The bowl turns, the roller, the scraper scrapes the side of the bowl, the roller mixes, it kneads, it whips, it beats, it creams butter, makes cakes, cookies, bread dough, anything that you need to make. So we're going to make our bread dough here today, and I turned my water kettle. Usually it goes to 130, and I turned it and it was boiling. So I'm gonna cool it down a little bit with some extra water. So normally I put it on 130, which is the perfect temperature to make bread. Yep. I heard it boiling away. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Do these pans need to go in the oven to melt?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And yeah, turn the bottom oven is down on like 400, so you can turn it down a little bit. So we're doubling the recipe, so if you want to follow along, we're going to do 3 cups of water. Normally, I get my kettle to 130, 120 to 130 is the perfect temperature to develop the protein structure of yeasted breads that it's required, that stretchy substance, stretchy structure that traps the gas that makes the bread rise. And so I like to get my water kettle 120 to 130, and that's the perfect temperature to pour in the mixer. But it's a little warm. Woo, it's still a little warm. You know what? I'm just gonna not do that. That's too hot. Yeast likes warm and moist, not hot. So we'll just go the other way. We'll do 2 cups of cool water and 1 cup of hot water.
And check your confidence monitor.
Yep. Okay. While I'm getting my mixer ready to make my bread dough, my little routine that I do is I get my flour milling, okay? So I'm gonna get my mill set up, make sure it's empty, that I'm not overflowing it. The mill can mill 8 cups of grain, which mills into 12 cups of flour. And like I said, a cup of grain makes about 1.5 cups of flour. This recipe calls for 4 to 4.5 cups. So I know that if I mill 3 cups, that's going to give me about 4.5. If I mill 6 cups, that's going to give me about 9, which may be what this double recipe uses. Now, I'm going to tell you something.
Look at this.
I think they're ready.
Okay.
Yep. Just be careful. Because they're that back one, well, they're heavy, and that back one's not completely on the pan. Okay. Now, a lot of people prefer soft wheat. I mean, not soft wheat, white wheat. A lot of people prefer red wheat. I really love red wheat because I like the nutty flavor. So just about everything you're going to eat today is going to be made with some red wheat, besides the cookies and the pastries. But so what I typically do is 2 parts red wheat, 1 part white wheat. The white wheat, not white flour, white wheat mellows that flavor out a little bit of the red wheat, gives a little boost of protein. It just makes a nice combination. So here's what I do. How many of y'all have buckets of wheat? You buy the big 6-gallon buckets. And those of you that are new are like, holy cow, y'all buy 6-gallon buckets? Yeah, we do. And here they are. And this is not full because I just used all my white wheat. So here's how I this is how we buy wheat. Whoops, come back to the center. Sorry, they're making me stay in the camera. So this is how we buy wheat, 45 pounds in here. Well, I don't want to pull my wheat out every time I go to make bread. So what I started doing is I have a little pail, and I open my red wheat, and I open my white wheat, and I go, 2 cups red, 1 cup white. 2 cups red, 1 cup white. 2 cups red, 1 cup white, until my pail is full. And now when I want to make bread, I just grab my pail that's 2 cups red, 1 cup white, okay? And I just scoop it. I don't care if it's the exact combination, doesn't matter to me. It should be pretty much because I've layered it in there that way. So that's just a little trick that I've been loving, especially when I was doing a lot of sourdough and just having to weigh, and I was weighing out red wheat, weighing out white wheat, and I went, wait a minute, why don't I just mix these together in the combination that I like and then weigh that all one thing. So I'm going to mill 6 cups of grain because I'm doubling this recipe. Would be 3 cups of grain for one recipe, but I'm doing 6 cups for a double. How easy was that? And these pails are super nice. They're super easy to get in and out of. Of course, the big buckets with the gamma lids are easy to get in and out of, but this just makes it easy. I can go grab it, and then when I run out, I'm ready to make bread, run to my garage or carport or my basement, wherever, and do my little dance and go on. So now let's go back to our getting our water and everything ready. So I'm going to do 1 cup of this hotter water. And usually your hot tap water is okay, because once you put it in this big metal bowl, cold metal bowl, it's going to start cooling it down right away. So if you want to follow along, I'm doing 3 cups of water. And now we'll do our oil. Whenever you measure oil, and whenever your recipe calls for oil and honey, if you'll measure your your oil first, it'll make the honey easier to get out of the measuring cup. So 2/3 cup of oil. And 2/3 cup of honey. Our honey should be in today. It shipped yesterday. And those of you that have been coming in looking for bakery honey. The bakery honey is by far the cheapest honey we sell. It's a delicious honey, but a little stronger, a little bit stronger than some of the others. Okay, so let's get our honey. See how, that's why I measure the oil first. It just slides out. And even if I have a recipe that uses just honey, I'll typically just add a drop or two of oil in there. If it's a recipe that a drop or two of oil is not gonna hurt the recipe at all. So there's my oil and honey. Now my salt. So I'm doubling the recipe. So 2 teaspoons. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So there's 3 of them. And now I'll add my 4th. Okay. Lecithin. Lecithin makes your bread dough soft. I never loved the rice bran extract. I didn't feel like it really made that big a difference in the recipe. We can't get rice bran extract right now, so we found a sunflower seed lecithin. Oh my gosh, I love it. I put it in Ezekiel bread even. I put it in, even if a recipe doesn't call for it, I put it, it really does make a difference. So 2 tablespoons of the sunflower seed lecithin. We sell it in 1-pound baggies. This you will want to keep your lecithin in the refrigerator or the freezer, either one. And I just take it right out, put it in my recipe, and stick it back in. Because lecithin is a phospholipid, so it does have some fats in it. This is the nutrient your body has to have to break down fat and cholesterol. Grains are very high in lecithin, which is why we see cholesterol drop from just changing to freshly milled flour. Because that lecithin is in the bran and the germ. Okay, so we're gonna wait on our yeast. I forgot my eggs. You don't always have to put eggs in your bread. Some people don't. In fact, most of my children don't put eggs in their bread. And, but eggs do, again, act as a leavening, first of all, but they have oil, they have fats, they have lecithin. So typically eggs will make your bread dough a little softer texture as well. That's why you put it in a cake and not a biscuit. You know, biscuit has a different texture. So we're just gonna add our eggs. So, and here's what I do. Turn this on low, 1 click continuous on. Kind of turn it, whoop, wrong way. I'm working backwards. So just turn it down low while just my liquids are in there. And here's where I go down my checklist, okay? Water, oil, honey, salt, lecithin. I'm not using gluten. The wheat is really good right now. I don't feel like it needs it, so I don't like to add extra if I don't have to. And now we've got our flour and our yeast. I'm gonna get my mill here out of the way so we can have a little more room. So now all we have to add is our flour and our yeast. To make sure this liquid is not too hot for the yeast, I'm going to just start adding some of my flour. Also, the yeast today it's what's called an instant yeast, and it does not have to be soaked in water or proofed in water or softened in water before you use it. So if you have a recipe that calls for doing that, just skip that step. This is how you're gonna make bread no matter which recipe you're using. All your liquids, all your ingredients, but your flour and your yeast. And then just what we're gonna do is add most of our flour here, and now we'll just add our yeast. We sell, the yeast is an instant yeast. It's a Parmesan yeast. It's a French strain of yeast, and it needs to be refrigerated or stored in the freezer once it's opened. Opened, it will last about a year. Unopened, it's almost 2 years, okay? You don't have to pull it out and let it sit to come to room temperature. I just have it out for convenience, so I'm not running to the refrigerator to get it out. Typically at home, take it out of the freezer, throw my yeast in, put it right back in the freezer. I always like to clarify that because some people think they've got to let it sit out. But once opened, it needs to go in the refrigerator. I pour mine up in the jar, or you can use a little clip to roll your top down. You just don't want your yeast to get moist and warm. So now we're just going to finish adding our flour. This is the beauty of the Anchor-shroom mixer. The dough is starting to climb up the back of the bowl. So you've got a little, you'll see there's a little indentation here that perfectly fits your thumb or your finger. You just pull that arm towards the center so it doesn't squish that dough up and out the back of the bowl. This knob, tighten it down, and now the dough itself is actually turning that roller. I'm going to determine how much flour I need, because if you leave out an egg, you don't need that much flour. If you lessen the honey, you don't need that much flour. If there's your wheat is a higher moisture this year than it was last year, you may need more flour. If it's a humid, rainy day, you may need more flour. So how am I going to determine? I'm going to get within a cup or so of what the recipe says I need, and then I'm going to take my arm. I'm going to bring it into the center. And if the dough leaves the side of the bowl, like it just did, I was thinking it was going to take a little more flour, so I thought it wouldn't do that so soon. But so I'm bringing the roller in. Did you see how the dough is now going around the roller like a big donut? Okay. In mixers that use a hook, you might see that the instructions say add the flour until it cleans the side of the bowl. Well, obviously, this is not going to clean the side of the bowl while I'm adding the flour because the roller is pushing up against the side of the bowl. Locking it away like this keeps it from squishing the dough up and out and slinging it all over your kitchen, but it still can go in the center. And as the dough thickens, the Anchor-shroom gently kneads just like your hand by pushing up against. Because of the way the Anchor-shroom kneads dough, you can actually use less flour than most bread recipes in mixers that use a hook. Mixers that use a hook knead by grabbing that dough and pulling and stretching, which is an acceptable way to knead dough, but because of that mechanism of kneading the dough and developing the gluten, you have to have a little stiffer dough. So a hook's going to require a little more flour. The Anchor-shroom is going to knead this dough and develop that gluten no matter how loose this dough is because of the way it mixes. I'll turn the speed up just slightly now, and I'm going to let this knead a single recipe. I usually let it knead about 4 minutes, a double about 8 minutes, and a triple about 12 minutes. Just depends. Bread recipes say knead till it's smooth and elastic. That is what happens when that gluten, those strands of protein, get nice and stretchy, which is absolutely necessary when you make yeasted bread. All right, so I'm just going to scoot my Anchor-shroom over to the side and let it just do its thing. I'm going to set my timer. My husband says I have a thing for expensive timers. So set my timer for 8 minutes because I know I've got all my flour in there. It's ready to just knead and let it do its thing. So now it'll knead the dough and it'll just turn itself off when it's finished kneading. So now what I thought I would do is we're going to make the basic dinner roll recipe, the next recipe in your handout. And we'll make it in the bread machine. Easy to make one recipe in the bread machine. So if you want to turn with me there, we'll get that started in the bread machine. Let me just kind of clean up my mess here. And I forgot to show you something on the dough. I want you to notice the dough. And I know it's going to be a little hard to tell in the mirror, but look how wet and loose this dough looks right now. The temptation is to keep adding flour till it looks like what you think bread dough should look like, a little bit stiffer, structured dough. Bread recipes, yeast bread recipes always say knead till it's smooth and elastic, and it'll actually take on a very shiny look about it. And one thing you need to remember with whole grain flour, your dough is going to look a little wet at this stage, more wet than a white flour dough at this stage. Because of the fiber that's there, though, you don't want to get this too stiff at this point. The fiber absorbs moisture. So as this dough kneads, not only does it get less sticky and a little bulkier by just kneading it, but it also gets less sticky because the fiber is absorbing that extra moisture, okay? So I just wanted to point that out. So we'll turn this one back on, let it keep kneading for us, and we'll mix some bread dough up in the bread machine. Okay. So this is the bread machine that we sell. Like I said, just call it the Zoe, because everybody seems to kind of ziggurat, well, we've heard it called all kinds of things. I actually asked the company, Zoharushi, why the symbol of the elephant and why the name. The symbol of the elephant, it represents strength. Their products are known for their quality and their endurance. And I said, okay, where'd you get the name Zoharushi? I got Ankashroom, I understand that one, even though, yeah. So Zoharushi is Japanese for elephant. Da, 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 da. I'm like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. So now it's a little bit easier to remember. So, but just call it the Zoe. We'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Would you like this bread to just rise here? Turn an oven off and let it rise?
Whatever you want.
It doesn't matter.
Um,
Would you rather them risen and baked sooner versus
yes,
later?
yes. So is that enough for everybody in the class? Is there 40 in the class? Perfect.
Like 35.
Okay, perfect, because I am making some. Okay, so I want to make this dinner roll recipe. This is a recipe from my cookbook, the Essential Home Ground Flour book. Those that don't know, that is my finally published book. After all those years of trying to get a book published, I did it. And it was as hard as birthing a baby. I'm just going to tell you that. And I've had 7 of those that I birthed with no pain medication. Adopted 2 more, those were easier. But that one was, that was a hard thing. But it's done, and the dinner roll recipe I absolutely love. I don't get to use it as much as I like to, because Ashley's daughter, my oldest grandchild, has a milk allergy. So I rarely use milk in any of my bread recipes. But just so you know, if you don't have milk allergies, milk and butter in a bread recipe will make a much softer, silkier texture bread. It's called a finer crumb instead of with oil and water. I love our basic bread dough. You can make absolutely delicious bread. But if you really want a silkier bread, you can even take the basic bread dough and substitute milk and butter there for the oil and water. And you'll see the whole texture of the bread changes. It really, really is amazing. So I wanted to do the dinner rolls for you, and you can see Ashley has rolled them out so pretty. Ooh, Ashley, this is a little hot. Hang on. Yikes. So Ashley has rolled them out so pretty for you. And that the recipe, you can do 20, just makes really nice sized dinner rolls. If you want them a little bit bigger, you can do 15 or 16 in a little smaller dish. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to make these. But sorry, the oven's a little bit hot, so I'm going to turn it. It's just really hot. I went to show them, and I'm sorry, I'm off the camera. I'm sorry. I already had it. Yes. The egg is optional. Again, this is a very, very soft, nice, soft crumb. So, but you could totally leave the egg out. Yes. So the egg is not, hey, recipes, particularly yeast bread recipes, are suggestions. You can really do most anything. Just remember, if you take the egg out, it probably is not going to need as much flour, just a little bit less. Yes? Ashley, can you help me hear her question? Yes?
Asking about alternate milk.
You using alternate milk? is fine. It's probably not going to give you quite the texture, you know, that whole milk will, but it's still got some, because it's the fat that's in milk and the moisture that's in dairy, you know. But, right, coconut milk might be a better alternative, but then the butter, the alternative butters do about the same thing. So yeah, very good question. All right, so let's get our Zoharushi bread machine. I'm gonna just slide it over. One of the nice things about the Zoharushi is the many cycle options that you can choose. You can do just a dough cycle, or you can do a full bake cycle in the bread machine. Most often in the Zoharushi, I do just a dough cycle, because most of the time, if I'm doing other bread, I'm doing a big batch in my mixer. My bread machine, I'll just do a single recipe because I need hamburger buns, a couple of pizza dough, you know, donuts, something that I just want to take that dough out and use. But the Zoharushi, the nice thing about it, it's built to last. It's not just a faddish kind of bread machine. It's got a very elephant strength motor. It's made to, it's kind of like those Heinz feet. It's made to do difficult tasks and should give you many, many, many years of service. Also, if you'll notice the dome-shaped lid, a number of years ago now, one of the things Zoharushi kept hearing from customers was that the crust would get too dark because of the long baking time to get the loaf done, to get the top done. So they put a heating element in the top of the unit as well as the base. So that's a nice feature of the Zoharushi. So for the dinner roll, I'm going to need to heat my milk and butter. How many? 25. Mine is 1998. So yeah, that's getting there, isn't it? Yeah. Wow. Still works fine. Yes, it is. It really is built to last. So ease of making your dinner rolls. So we're going to use a cup of milk, and I just turn it on kind of low. Again, you don't want to get your liquid super, super hot. So I just turn it on 1 or 2, you know, low to medium low. And then this is my butter, and I've discovered that if I cut it in little pieces, just little slices, it'll melt faster than if I just put the whole chunk in there, because then the milk will get too hot to melt the butter, and then I got to let it all cool down and blah, 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 blah. Okay, y'all know what blah, 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 blah means, right? So really, I'm just kind of warming this up, and the butter doesn't even have to be completely melted. As long as you're starting to see some of it melted, with the mixing of the dough, it'll work its way in there. So, all right, and I already milled the flour for this bread. Figured y'all didn't need to see me mill flour more than once. But I thought this would, you know, show you some great options. You can mix big batch of dough in the mixer if you have the mixer. If you don't, it's amazing. Ask for it for Christmas. You will love it. It's the largest non-commercial mixer sold. So it just really does a great job. So now we'll get our other ingredients in here again, because I'm measuring honey, and this one doesn't have oil. It has the butter is in my my pot here getting hot. I just spritz a little bit of oil in there. It's not going to hurt this recipe, and I measure my honey just right on top there. With the bread machine, you typically are going to mix the dough exactly the way we just did. You get your liquids in first, your salt, everything but the flour and the yeast. So and should your milk get a little hotter than you wanted it to, it's typically okay once you get your other ingredients in there. Can y'all open this for me? I keep looking for one of these, and also if you can get the other ones from the kitchen, I really want them. That is the handiest little spatula. When they first sent it to us, the vendor that makes it, Dream Farm, it's called a spoonula, and they sent us I've always loved the big one, the big version. This is my favorite cooking spatula. It's high heat, just ingenious. They fix the handle like that so that it doesn't touch your counter and get all goopy all over. Well, then they made these tiny little ones, and I thought, well, this is the silliest thing ever. This is just so cute. Oh my goodness, I can't have enough of them. I have 3 in this drawer here, and I'm always searching for it. At home, I wash it because I'm going to use it in 5 minutes from now. I'll use it for something else. It's just the handiest little spoon. And it's high heat, so even if you're cooking something, you can just use it. All right, so y'all can see my butter's just kind of melted. It's not all melted, so I'm going to go ahead and just, it's melty. Little hot, but that pan is going to cool it down. All right, so 1/4 cup of honey. This gets an egg. And instead of putting the egg here on the warm liquids, I'm going to put my flour in first. So this recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to use a tablespoon of lecithin. It's not in my book, the recipe in my book, but I added it here. I'm telling you, it makes all the dough just so light and fluffy and beautiful. Tablespoon in this recipe. It should be there. Did we not add it in this recipe? Oh, I forgot. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do 3½ cups of flour here. Actually, I think I'm going to do 3¼ and I'll check the dough when it's kneading. Normally I mix this in the mixer because I'm typically making lots of rolls when I make it. And I just don't want the dough to be too stiff here. So I'm going to just do, was that 3? Yeah, okay. And I put the little egg, I just drop it right there in the corner. And then now we add our yeast on the top. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I've dropped it in pretty warm water, but I mean, I would think, I think 100, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm kind of like you. So that's why I always kind of drop it there. Now, if I'm doing my time bake cycle and my liquids are cool, I just drop it down in the liquids. And it doesn't warm the liquids up so hot that it poaches the egg. So, but I'm kind of like you. I'm like, I got the water a little hot this time. I'm not going to put my egg down in there. So there's our single recipe of these perfect dinner rolls. You're going to love these dinner rolls. I'm going to serve these to you towards the middle of the class with some chicken salad. And the recipe is in your book. So just snap the pan in. The newer models, I mean, it's been a number of years now, they added these handles to the pan, which again, I thought was something kind of silly. And I'm like, this is ingenious because now I can get the hot pan out of my mixer a lot, using hot plates. So we're just going to choose the dough cycle on my Zoharushi. I don't have to heat the liquids. I just need the dough, and give me the dough. I need the dough right now, so just give it to me. So there you have it. All right. I'm actually going to move the bread machine to the back so that I'll have more room because we're going to start rolling in dough now. All right. I thought I put all that stuff away before class, and I didn't. Y'all feel like you're at home, right? Because you're like, she's crazy. Anyway. The nice thing also about the Zoharushi is even though I unplugged it, it has about, I don't remember if it's 60 seconds or whatever so if your power blinks, you don't have to worry about, oh man, did my bread machine turn off? It didn't. So I don't remember how long it is, but it's a few minutes. Okay. Let me wash my hands. Now, I'm sure our flour is probably cool by now, but we're going to wait and do the pie dough at the end of the class. I already have pies made, so we don't have to worry about getting it made for y'all to eat. I'll stick my yeast and my lecithin back in the fridge. All right. I want to show you the bread dough here. See how much shinier? I don't know if you can tell in the overhead, but it's smooth. Okay. Now, if I'm around when my mixer turns off, and I'm not always, sometimes I'm like doing a load of laundry or who knows what, and yeah, I don't always remember this, but if I'm around, I like to just come clean my dough off of my roller and scraper. Yes, isn't that amazing? The Anchus Room does make a little spatula that works, but this works really, really well. Did I not put my egg in? What's that egg for? That's kind of scary. In this one? Yeah, I did, didn't I? So I'm just wondering what that egg's from. Because I put it in the bread machine too, didn't I? Oh, well. All right, and so here's what I'll do. Clean all that out. This is the lid to the bowl of the Anchus Room, and I just put it on, and that'll keep it warm and moist. Yeast likes warm and moist. Just remember that. Yeast bread will rise at cooler temperatures, but it'll really rise at warm, moist temperatures. All right. So we're just going to scoot this guy over. We'll just sit that guy back there, and maybe I'll figure out what I didn't do. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to make these lovely braids here. You need to have a pretty centerpiece of bread on your table, don't you think? And I just think those are so, so very pretty. So there is a recipe in your handout for challah bread. If you're going to say it right, you got to hawk up a fur ball, challah bread. And so before class, I figured you've seen me mix up enough bread dough now. Before class, Ashley mixed up a batch of the challah bread for me. And it is rising. We actually did a double recipe because I'm going to do 2 braids for you. I'm going to do the crown, and I'm going to do a beautiful 6 braided bread. And I find with rolling the ropes, though I love to use oil when I'm rolling out, I find that when I'm braiding the bread, a little dust of flour actually works a little better than the oil. So I'm just going to pull my dough out. How pretty that dough is. And this is the challah bread recipe. You can do this exact same thing with the basic bread dough if you want to. Those are the basic bread dough. So if you don't want to make the challah bread, typically challah bread has a good many eggs in it. This recipe doesn't use as many as some recipes that I've seen. It's a little lighter. Again, the eggs give it a little softer texture. A traditional Jewish bread won't put milk in there with eggs, so it will just still use water and oil. So this is a double recipe, so I'm just going to cut it in half. You're not working flour into the dough, you're just keeping it on the surface so it doesn't stick to your hands. So I'm going to divide this in half. And I was actually going to do 2 braids with part of it, 2 different braids, but I think I'll just stick to actually the one on the your left is a 4-stranded braid, which I can show you that if you want me to, but we'll see what happens. I have to kind of think about it when I do it. So I'm just going to make sure my loaves are about the same weight. This is a double, so I'm separating it for, so I have a single recipe and a single recipe. Okay. All right. We'll do the easy first. How about that? So now I'm going to take this single recipe and divide it in half, because I will attempt to do the 4-stranded braid. You want me to show you how to do that one too? All right. All right, so that's okay.
Is it okay if I bake the rolls over here
Mhm.
and leaving those ovens for you?
Yep. You're fine. All right. Okay, so first we're going to, you want your ropes to be about the same size, because if you don't, then your braid's going to be a little bit skewed. So for these loaves, I'm going to do a 4-stranded braid. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do a 4-strand. So I'm going to cut it in half, half again. And these should be about, that one feels a little weeny. Let's see, whoops, that's got to, oh, that's milliliters. I'm going to do grams. 2, 3. Okay. And you don't have to be super, super exact, but no, you won't. You'll get used to it. And then you'll see me, I'll pick off little pieces and then just go back through and stick it all in one. It's amazing, because if you think that's going to change the weight, is that really going to make that big a difference in this ball of dough? So, see, and then I go boom, boom, boom. Okay, so keeping the flour on the outside. The big mistake people make is they start kneading their dough here. When you take the dough out of the bowl to shape it, it's nice and fluffy and very pliable. You don't want to knead it anymore. It's already kneaded. It does not need to be kneaded anymore. So you saw, I just kind of dumped it out and just kind of shaped it. If you start working it like this, you're going to have this rubbery ball of dough. It's not like pie dough. You can't ruin it by doing that. It's just you might say a bad word when you start to try to roll it, because it's just going to come back on you. Roll it and it's going to come back on you. So just don't over roll your work your dough at this point. Also, you'll see me, I kind of tuck it under like that. That's getting the flour part on the surface. Okay? And I just roll a rope. And I kind of, if you'll see, I kind of am starting in the middle and kind of letting my hands just work their way up, so that that middle section kind of doesn't get too fat there. Okay. I'm gonna divide this in 4 and let one of y'all roll it into ropes for me. Or here. Because y'all don't need to see me roll ropes again. Probably don't even need to see me weighing again. I already forgot what the first one weighed. Okay, 142. Unless somebody in the class, does someone want to come wash your hands and roll ropes for me to get them ready? Come on. You know you want to. You can even go off camera a little bit so nobody sees you. All right, come on. Yay! Tell me your name again, honey. I forgot.
I'm
Phoebe. I'm like, I know you. Phoebe, did you come from Tennessee today?
I did.
Yay! All right, so you're just going to kind of tuck these surface under and then just kind of start and just let it roll down. And then just kind of tuck that and let it roll down. Okay, so those 4 are yours and these 4 are mine. How do you pronounce Metzger? Is that how? Metzger. Okay, I just. We got the butcher and the baker. We got a candlestick maker in the class. That is great. I love it. Phoebe Metzger.
My maiden name means gatherer.
Oh.
It's German for gatherer, so I told my husband that somebody had to get some sides to all that meat, right? Vegetables and bread.
You're gathering the bread. There you go. Well, we're so glad to have you here today. I never look at the registration list, so I never know who's going to be in the class. And I kept looking at you like, I know this face. Of course it's you. Phoebe is a wonderful supporter of Real Bread Outreach. Very faithful. Yeah, a little bit longer, but you get them close, and I can get them the rest of the way. That's okay. We like skinny in the middle, don't we? We pray for skinny in the middle. Please, Lord. Just want to be skinny in the middle. Absolutely. Y'all ask me your questions. Uh-huh. Yes, do just like what I just did. Yep. So if you want to change the basic Beckers bread and dough and use milk, you could use half milk and half water. Yeah. But you're just going to do it exactly like I just did it. That's why I decided I wanted to just do the recipe, that basic roll recipe in the class for you, just so you see that little step of gently warming that milk. And it doesn't take much, very low heat. Just let it sit there until it's slightly warm and that butter. Softened butter is even better, but sometimes I just take it right out of the refrigerator. Then I'll kind of slice it even thinner, slices than I did today. Yeah. I don't remember. I just made them all the same. I don't remember. How many of these? Oh, on the rolls? I'll figure that out when I made a recipe in the class, so we're going to do rolls out of those, and I'll tell you. I can't remember. Yeah. On a hamburger bun, it's about 3.5 ounces. So a dinner roll is typically about 2 ounces. But we'll see. So I weigh my whole ball of dough, and then I'm like, okay, if I want... And it's funny, I do 15 dinner rolls because those fit 5 rows of 3. It's the way I'm like, why did I do 15 and not 16? Because 4 rows of 4 didn't fit in a smaller pan. You want the sides touching to give a pretty, you'll see the effect of the rolls, and I'll show you why. Yes? Nope. Oh, could I? You could, but that's kind of what makes a scone and not a biscuit is the egg. It gives it a little bit cakier texture, but you can, it'll just be more like a little biscuit, but it just won't have quite the smooth texture, but do it. If you have to leave it out, leave it out. Yeah. Okay.
You do that. You need to come volunteer to roll dough more.
You're doing good. All right. So the crown. All right. So now y'all need to watch. Don't watch Phoebe anymore. I know she's pretty and all that, but just take a look. Okay.
Do that and not look at it.
I've been doing it a couple of years. And listen, okay, so think a little 2-ounce thing of dough. This is how I make my normal dinner rolls. You've seen me. So a little 2-ounce snake of dough, all right? So this is going to be humongous. And this is how I make my dinner rolls. Cross it over, pull it through, okay? Just like you're tying a knot. But just think, now this is this big a rope, all right? So, yes, just 2 ounces about for a dinner roll. Just roll it into a rope, tie it in a knot, okay? So when the kids opened the bakery, I was like, we got to do knotted rolls, okay? So they tried to please their mother. We have this wonderful machine in the bakery that would roll the little ropes, and it would just spit them out. You just drop the dough in, and it spit it out the other end. So they had me come in one day when they had to make several hundred dinner rolls. Some of y'all are not old enough to know Lucy and Ethel and the chocolate factory. That is exactly what I felt like. I mean, it was shooting out, and I was like, tying and throwing. And finally, I was like, y'all don't have to knot them anymore. And they're like, yeah, we were already deciding that. We are done. So, all right, let's do our crown. Okay, so, oh, beautiful. Perfect. No, that's perfect. Thank you, Phoebe. The butcher, the baker. All right, so, So we just have, so you're going to put 2 strands here, okay? Then you're going to like tic-tac-toe the other strand, except the other 2 strand, except you got to go 1 over, 1 under, okay? 1 over, 1 under, the opposite. So if this one's over, this one goes under, okay? Are you with me? All right, now this is where it gets fun. The one that's on top, okay, the one that's over goes under the one that's under. You're with me? I can only do it once. Well, maybe if we could scrap the 4 strand and I'll just do this one again if you want me to. All right, so see, this one's over. This one's under. It goes under, okay? This one, and then move to these 2. Just forget these, you already worked these. So now this one's over, right? So it goes under. This one's over, so it goes under. This one's over, so it goes under. See what we've done? All right, now we work back the other way. This one's over, and this is where it starts kind of pulling around. This one's over, it goes under. 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 Okay? Y'all with me? Okay? This one's over, it goes under, and at this point, you're going to start kind of running out of rope. This one's over, and you just start tucking them under. This one's over, it goes under. This one's over, it goes under. And now, you just kind of grab these little ends and tuck them under. Yeah, what's over goes under. What goes up must come down. Now see, and then you just tuck those little strands in, and there you have it. Okay, and it's going to rise till double. So this is what that was when I braided that one. So this was a half of a recipe. Actually, it wasn't half of this recipe. Those were basic bread dough. So that was a little more dough than this is. Okay, so there's that one. I love it. Okay. This is half of the challah bread recipe. The challah bread is not quite as big as the basic bread dough. So yeah, I thought about that when I said it. That is half of the basic bread dough. The one out there, of the challah bread, yeah. So, and you could easily do the whole challah in that, and it would make a nice, pretty crown. They do these a lot for Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, the Feast of Trumpets. So that's the crown, okay? All right, now this one I'm going to have to think about. I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm going. So you just squeeze these strands together. Okay, now typically braid is right over left, left over right. But this one we're going to kind of work one way and then work back, because we're going to work with these 3 strands first. I'm not sure if I remember how to do this. Okay, so you go over, just pinch those together. You go over, nope. Oh, there you go. You go over and over. Nope. You go over and under. And now you go over and over. There we go. All right, so you just do whatever is opposite. So now this one's over, so you're going to go under. This one's over, you're going to go under. It's kind of not difficult because it's obvious. If you went, you see, so I don't know how to tell you what I just did. All right. You just keep going this way, and then you work back this way. Nope, 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 nope. There we go. Then this one. That was right, under. Okay, and then over. So you work those 2 first, and then you come back with these 2. And then when you get to the end, you're like, I don't know what to do with the rest of y'all. And then what you have to do is kind of go back and just tuck that little end under. Some people cut a little bit of that off, but I find that you can just round it.
I'm going to sneak into your shop really quick.
Okay.
Just so they can see.
There's the risen rolls. See how pretty they are? I showed them to you where they weren't risen. And this is why the number of rolls, and you put them with the sides slightly touching, they rise together. You're always going to get a little more rise in the oven, so they're just going to rise up and just be beautiful, okay? So here's our braided loaves. And if you could get me a cookie sheet. Oh, Phoebe, I need you again. This one we got to roll in 6s, 6 strands. So they don't need me to. All right. 5:15. Just right here. Okay. So this is going to be a 6-strand braid. So we're going to do thirds. And this is one full recipe of the challah bread. And I've usually, like I said, I usually do it with the basic bread dough as well. 172, 174. Okay, those 3, you want to roll those? And just kind of tuck that, you know, just, yeah, yep, and then just start rolling. There you go. All right.
Oh, I pulled more that time and I got it longer.
There you go. Well, this is more dough, too. Oh, I only needed 3. That's why I'm like, why are my little things so small? $150, $145. Oh, look at her, got these nice long. Yeah, probably don't need to go out quite that long, but that's okay. It'll shrink up. Yeah, but just don't need to go out quite that long with this one because we handle it so much. On this 6-strand, you handle it so much that your ropes will start really kind of stretching out on you. So, okay. So this is a 6-strand braided. This is a traditional Jewish challah bread braid. It is beautiful when it's done, and it rises up to be if you use the whole recipe, it's really a nice big loaf of bread. And I always have to think about it again. I didn't practice it. I've done it so many times over the years, but I probably should have practiced it one time before today. I think there is a video on our website. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's one on. Watch it. The dinner roll probably the most, the lightest because of the butter and the milk. This one just has eggs, and it would be the next kind of fluffiest. Yeah. 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 It didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Are you adding the lecithin to your bread? I do. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's so fluffy. So I would do, you could even do the dinner roll recipe. You could use it and make a loaf bread out of it. Mm-hmm. The soft, yes. Mm-hmm. And I would still use the lecithin. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that dinner roll recipe, and it's on page, I think it's 165 in my book. It is the perfect, like, you know, we all have those favorite things that we like to make at holiday time. And I don't know if you've ever seen a recipe that calls for a hot roll mix, you know, some kind of something. This dinner roll, perfect, thank you so much. This dinner roll recipe is the size of a hot roll mix, okay? So it's perfect if you have a recipe that calls for hot roll mix. So, all right. Okay. Now we're gonna, I've got a little line that'll help you think about this. So now we have 3 strands. So we're just gonna pinch them together just like we did. And I try to put these outside strands on the bottom, and you'll see why in just a minute. So I try to put it, make sure, I don't try, I do. I put it on the bottom. So now we have this very unusual looking thing, kind of spiderish or octopusish. Is there, that's not a word, but anyway. All right, so here's the deal. These 2 outside strands. You are gonna take this one and you're gonna take it over here. You're gonna take this one and take it over here, okay? So now you have this T with strands coming down, okay? Now, whichever one of these is kind of on the bottom, you're going to take these 4 strands, and I say you're going to part the bread C, okay? And you're going to bring this one down the center, okay? You with me? All right. This one over here, not this one, but this one here, you got to replace that T up there, okay? There you have it. So now part the bread C with these 4. Bring this one down. You got to replace that, so you take this one over. Okay? Part the bread C. Then bring this one down. You see what we're doing? Okay? You got to replace that one, so take this one over. Part the bread C. Bring this one down. You got to replace that one, so take that one over. Okay? Bring this one down. You got to replace that one, so take that one over. Some of them are getting short. Okay, so you got to take that one over. Oh, nope, that one's there. Part the bread C, bring this one down. Take that one over. Bring this one down. Take that one over. Bring this one down. Take that one over. Okay, let's see. Bring this one down. Take that one over. Bring this one down. Take that one over. There we go. And then you get to the end and you just kind of squish it. There you go. This one's actually easier than the 4-strand. It really is. You just make that T, you know, take those, and then you always replace it with the one down here. You know, when you bring that one down, you got to replace it. Okay? So it's really, really, really easy. And just always work with those 4 strands that are down, part them, and then bring that one down, and just alternating, bringing it down. Does that make sense? Yeah? How much dough was that? That was 1 full challah bread recipe. And now these have to rise. Okay? And what I like to do is take and brush them with an egg wash. So the challah bread recipe uses eggs and 1 egg yolk, so that gives you the egg white to do your egg wash. And what I do is add just a little water to this. And then I slightly mix it. And then I baste it. You don't want to go super heavy-handed or you're going to get like a egg white, cooked egg white on your bread. Some people bake it with about 5 minutes before it's done, do this quickly. Either way, you just have to be real careful if it's hot that egg doesn't cook on there. So now I'm going to use a little bit of my special bakery blend. No, I'm not special bakery blend. This is my everything bagel blend. It's poppy seed, sesame seed, minced garlic, minced onion. So there's that. Yeah, you can. I mean, you can do it. You can do it. Her question is, do I put my egg wash on before I let it rise? I typically do because then I'll forget. But hang on. I'm going to do, I really like the look on this one of just sesame seeds. Yeah, I usually do, but it doesn't matter. You can do it. You can do it after it's risen. And like I said, some people even do it, 5 minutes before it's done. They'll pull it out hot, and it gives it that real glazed look. So there's that. We can leave this one with no seeds. But I love the everything bagel. It's got the poppy seed, so you get that look. Of the poppy seeds. There you have it. And there we go. These are going to rise, and we'll bake them just like at 350 for 30 minutes or so. Okay? So we'll let these rise. We'll have these at the end of the class. I'll let you taste them. You'll come get this one. Here. I know I'm not supposed to walk over there, they told me. I've already blown it a lot. Okay. I don't, once I've shaped my loaves, I don't like to cover them. The question is, do you cover your loaves to rise? Even in my bowl here, I don't always cover it. It does keep it warm and moist, but my loaves, I don't typically worry about it. If you do cover them, you just want to make sure that you have what's called a bread cloth or a tea towel. You don't want the terry towels because then the dough will stick to that, and when you go to lift it off, it will deflate your dough. So that's why I don't typically cover mine. Years ago, we had houses that were drafty, had no screens, and Brad and I, about after a couple of years of marriage, we moved out to Cherokee County when we first moved out here, and we lived in a little 100-year-old farmhouse. You could literally sit in our living room and watch the curtains blow in the winter. That was drafty, the windows weren't built perfectly. So I think that's the biggest thing. When it says, let your bread rise in a draft-free location. Most of us have draft-free locations. And most of us have pretty climate-controlled homes. If you want it to rise faster, if you have a newer oven that has a proofing setting, you could turn it on proof and put it in there. And I do think it makes the rolls and things a little airier. But I will tell you, my free-form loaves, I don't typically like to put in a proofing oven. The dough tends to get so delicate that it kind of spreads out. So if you really want it to come up, just let them rise a longer time at room temperature, okay? If your house is cool, it's still going to rise. It just will take a little longer, okay? Yeast likes warm and moist. Have I said that? Yeah. And if you get an emergency and you've got to leave and you're like, oh no, if you can put your dough in the refrigerator, that'll be fine too. Also, another little trick, if you want these dinner rolls hot and fresh, but you don't want to bake bread the day of Thanksgiving or Christmas Day or the day of your party, you can take and shape the rolls, and I'll show you that a little bit more when we shape the dinner rolls, and put them in that pan. And I use white trash bags that have not been used, because the white ones are typically unscented. You don't want some lemon scented whatever. So just get the white trash bags, and I slide the whole pan down in there, tied up, stick them in the freezer. As soon as you shape them, stick them in the freezer. Then the day of your party or whenever you're ready for them, dinner rolls are going to take about 4 to 6 hours to thaw and rise on your counter. And then just pop them in the oven, ready to bake. Okay? So that's a little trick. I do that every Christmas. Sometime our Christmas morning dinner, breakfast is cinnamon rolls. Time out. Sarah, can you get me a bottle of water? I am searching for my water, and I didn't bring it up here. So our Christmas morning is cinnamon rolls. I don't want to make cinnamon rolls Christmas morning. Sometime the week of Christmas, I get them all cut, lay them in the pan, put that pan in a trash bag, unused, white, unscented, trash bag. And I say white because those are unscented. And pop them in the freezer. Last thing Christmas Eve I do before we go to bed, take them out. They thaw and rise overnight. Because the house is usually pretty chilly at night, so they just thaw and rise overnight. Thank you so very much. All right. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yep, we're going to talk about that when I get the pie crust. You can either just do the crumbles, but yes, you certainly can do the pie crust. Yep. I smell the rolls. Is somebody watching them? That reason I smell them is because it's 2 seconds. Oh my goodness, they are so pretty. Let's look at them. Yeah, all right. How do you tell if bread is done? Thermometer. You thought thermometer was just for meat, right? Nope. Best way to tell if your bread is done is an instant read thermometer. We have 2 styles out there in the store. With milk and butter, you want to be about 190. Okay? Without milk and butter, 180 to 190 is fine. 190 to 200 with milk and butter, that's called an enriched dough. So I just shoot for 190 for everything. Then I don't have to think about it. So about 190. Whoops, this is high heat, so let's see. These are so gorgeous. Look how pretty that is. And if once you've let them cool a little bit, they can actually, you can lift them out and put them on a serving tray. So we'll just, we'll check this one. 186, done. You want to, yeah, I'll let y'all come get this here. I'll turn the timer off so it'll hush. There we go. All right. Okay, so if you want to turn in your handout, I'm going to page, I think it's page 4. I shifted things around for your handout, so I'm not sure if that's still, but it should be back to the Beckers bread and roll, or Beckers basic bread dough, and then the herb swirl and the cinnamon swirl. Okay, you see that? Now I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful swirl. Y'all ready for that? It's so easy. Or the cinnamon swirl. So what I love is I made a double recipe. Yeah, okay. I'm like, why did I make a double? Okay, I know now. Because I'm going to divide a single in half, the single recipe in half, and I'll make a smaller swirl, herb and sweet. And then we're going to do another variation, the Parmesan pull-apart rolls, okay? So this was one full Becker basic bread dough. I did the whole loaf. So if you want to do a bigger loaf that goes in the big Emile Henri Cloche, do the full recipe. If you want, it'll hold the full recipe. All right, so let's see how our dough is doing. It is risen. It's risen indeed. Y'all gonna really feel like you're in church. And if you don't have a rolling mat, you're missing something. You're missing a wonderful thing. All right, I'm actually going to get my butter melting here. Okay, So it's about 3 tablespoons of butter. And this is for a half a recipe. So if you're going to do a full recipe, then it's about 6 tablespoons of butter. Again, to get it melting where it doesn't burn, I put it on one and I just kind of slice my butter in slices. Okay. I put it on very, very low. All right. Oh, this is nice, nice soft dough. Another thing to have a softer bread, little softer dough. So use less flour. That'll give you a softer bread. Bread dough can totally be kneaded by hand, but just remember, by hand, to keep it from sticking like that, you typically have to keep kneading flour into it. So that's the beauty of having a mixer, a bread machine, something to knead it for you that's going to knead it no matter how sticky it is. This is a little softer than I like for this swirl, so it's going to make the swirl a little harder to roll, but it's still going to be doable. So I'm just kind of, see how I'm not kneading into it. I'm dumping it out and just kind of shaping it so I can divide it more easily. So this is a double bread Becker basic recipe. This is the one we mixed up in the class, okay? So I'm just going to divide it in half, kind of eyeball it here. So that should be a single recipe, and this should be a single recipe, okay? Again, I'm not kneading it into a circle. I'm just kind of tucking it under to a smooth ball. I'm going to get my scale and make sure I've got these right about the same size. Sometimes it's easier to put a bowl here and measure it because it kind of goes. All right. Oh, it changed units on me. What? I was like, what? Okay. There we go. That's good enough. I'm like, I couldn't remember. All right. Oh, no, I still need it. So just set this one aside for a minute. This is a full recipe. This is a full recipe. So now I'm going to show you how to take one basic recipe, make a cinnamon bread for Thanksgiving morning, and a herb swirl for dinner, okay? If you don't have 20, 30, 40 people like we will have, okay? Our family alone with 9 children and my 14th child I'm hoping is born momentarily. She was due Monday. So with spouses and grandchildren and children, 9 children, I think the last I counted is 26 when we all get together. So I make a full recipe and some more and more and more. So anyway, but if you have a smaller gathering, this is perfect. And I decided I'd do it this way. Divide it in half, make a sweet one for breakfast and an herby one for lunch, okay? And there's, those of you that know Karen, how many of y'all know Karen Welch that works here at our store? She runs the store. She knows more about the business now than I do. And anyway, she is Brad's sister, those of you that didn't know. So she has 4 children. Now her girls have gotten married this year. But there's something wrong with this picture. There was 6 of them. 26 of us go to her house for Thanksgiving. I'm like, She's still my sister-in-law. She is still, and every year I'm like, are you sure there's just something wrong? And we spend the night. We bring sleeping bags and we spend the night. We're big gamers, so we get there Wednesday, sometime noonish. It gets earlier as we can every year, and we start playing games. And I already, see, I'm telling y'all stories and I forget what I weighed. Well, I didn't forget what I weighed, but unfortunately, I can't forget that. Okay, we're gonna take a little off of this one. That, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so now we'll just sit this guy away for a minute. All right, so here's our single recipe divided into, I'm gonna dust my rolling mat. The nice thing about the silicone rolling mats, they have graduations when I'm doing my cinnamon rolls. They have rulers here. I'll bring my roll up to here and cut right along those lines, and they're then perfect size. Also, it sticks to the counter, doesn't move. If I do have a hot pot of butter or something that I need to sit here, it's silicone, it won't burn. But it also, now I am using a good bit of flour here, but it really doesn't require nearly as much flour on the silicone rolling mats. And I love this one. It's got some great features. We'll roll out the pie dough here in a little bit. All right, so get my little roller, and unfortunately we can't get these in right now. These are amazing. Yeah. They're just nice when you're rolling out your dough into a rectangle. Now, obviously, if we do the full batch of dough, it's going to be a much bigger rectangle. This was actually kind of easier to work with than the full recipe, because you'll see what we're going to do here. It's really, really fun. And I'm going to do it twice, one savory, one sweet. Yes, so we took a single and we made it, we divided it, so we're making the small swirls that you had for breakfast. I know I think I showed them to you, those of you that were here before class, but you'll see what it's going to look like. Oh, I'm going to cook these. You can certainly cook them on the cookie sheet, let them rise like we did. I'm going to cook these in my cloches, and oh my gosh, do they come out beautiful. So since this is a half a recipe, I'm going to use my smaller cloche. This is my Romertopf clay cloche made in Germany, and we're going to pop them in the oven to preheat. And normally what I do there is just pop them in the oven, turn my oven on to preheat while I'm rolling out my loaves. With the Romertopfs or a bread cloche, they mimic a brick bread oven. You really don't have to let the loaves rise before you put them in there. Preheat your base and roll your dough. You can let it sit here for, 15 minutes maybe, just to kind of rest, and then just pop them in the hot cloche, spritz them with water, put the lid on, they will rise and bake all at the same time. So you literally can have, from milling your flour to making your bread to bread on the table ready to eat, an hour. That's what I love about the cloches, okay? So now all we have to do is we're going to take our butter. So if you do the full recipe, you're going to use about 6 tablespoons of butter. We just spread it out. I could have made this a little bigger. Okay. Did you like the swirls this morning? Okay. So there's that. So now I've got my cinnamon sugar mixture. For that, oh man, I just spilled it. You can use, typically we use white sugar or brown sugar. Here at Beckers, we don't use white sugar or brown sugar. This is where we use honey granules in place of white sugar, sucanat in place of brown sugar. If you have my book, it's called Light Evaporated Cane Juice is honey granules. Sucanat is dark evaporated cane juice. Sucanat's a brand name, so they didn't want brand names when the publisher didn't, so that's why it says that. So I just go ahead and mix up my sugar mixtures and my cinnamon, and I love a little bit of nutmeg. You can use all sucanat if you want here. I like a flavor of half sucanat, half honey granules, but You can use all honey granules if you're used to cinnamon and white sugar. Whatever you like, okay? The ratio is about a half a cup to a teaspoon of cinnamon, okay? So then I just mix it, and I try to, at Christmas time, if I'm gonna make a lot of cinnamon rolls, I go ahead and mix up a big bowl. And then I just pour it into my little shaker. And then I don't measure at this point. I just shake. Generously. Yeah, because you want it to have enough flavor. Another thing that, a little tip I want to point out to you, when you're converting one of your family favorite white flour recipes, because the whole grain flour, even the white wheat, has more flavor than white flour, if it's, say, a snickerdoodle cookie or some kind of spice cookie, you're typically going to want to double your spices, at least 1.5. Because a lot of times you'll make it like your recipe and you're like, I don't taste the cinnamon. I don't taste the whatever. So a lot of times I'll double the spices. Or like I said, at least 1.5 times. Okay, so if now I've got my butter and my cinnamon, and I kind of put it on there till it's kind of dry, starts caking up dry. Now you're going to roll it. I roll it pretty tight here, okay? I really, instead of kind of a loose roll, I roll it up kind of tight, okay? So that there's a lot of layers in there. If I was making cinnamon rolls, this is where I would take it out to my edge here, put my edge even there, and I would take this tool, which is so wonderful, and I would cut my cinnamon roll slices. Turn them cut side up, let them rise. And I try to do them just like the dinner rolls, sides touching, so it kind of forces them up tall, okay? But I'm not going to do that with this. I'm going to make that swirl. This is so pretty to me. It's just really beautiful. So what you do here, you've got this rolled up. Take a sharp knife, or I like this dough divider to cut here because with a knife you've got to kind of pull it. This I just can go and kind of cut through. So instead of cutting this way, you're going to cut this way. So you just cut down the middle of that rope, and you want to make sure you get cut all the way. And the funny thing about this, the first time or two you'll do it, you'll go, I can't get this to stay together. It looks ugly. It won't once it rises. Okay, so no matter how ugly you think it looks, like, see, you're going, that's kind of ugly. Okay, so now you see you've got these layers. What I do now is you just take that over, and then you just start twisting it. And yeah, they're going to kind of start coming apart and looking kind of ugly. It's okay. Okay? So there you go. Okay? Now, here's what we do. And again, just kind of tuck that under. And like I said, sometimes I don't get it all cut and there's these little strings and I'm like, this is just not going. When you do the full recipe, it's big and it just starts kind of stretching out and you're like, I can't get this. Just do it. Just go for it and just wind it up. That didn't look so pretty when I started with it, but look at it now. So it all works out. Okay? You could. With this one, it's a little harder, when you've got things in there because then you can't get cut through. So I don't do it as much when I'm doing this swirl. I may do it when I do some other type of braid or something like that. All right, let me get the cinnamon off my hands because I don't want it in my herb mixture. Do y'all think y'all could do that? Super, super easy. But just giving you some ideas of just different holiday looks that you can ooh and awe your guests. Yes?
So if you want to do that one in the morning,
Uh-huh.
who's your dough for the oven if you want to bake it pretty late?
Late in the afternoon? Honestly, okay, so the question is, you want to do this one for the morning and the other one for the afternoon. I would probably, well, you probably only have one cloche. I have two here, so yeah. You could pop your dough in the refrigerator, or you could go ahead and shape it while you're shaping and pop it, close it and pop it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Freezer if you're going to cook it tomorrow, refrigerator if you're going to just cook it later. And still go ahead and preheat your cloche, okay? Guys, I can't tell you how much I love cloches. They changed my life. Most of my bread now is baked either in a cloche or on the baking stones. I may let the bread just rise a little bit, and then for 15 minutes or so, and then I will just put it on a hot stone and spritz it with water, and it rises and bakes just beautifully. No, I don't think I would do that in there. If you can do the Ezekiel bread in the cloche, I don't think so. I think I would stick with a bread pan for that. Mm-hmm. Yes. No, I don't. No, they're tempered, but I would let it come to at least room temperature. Yeah, and especially if you've put it in the freezer, I would certainly let it thaw and rest a little bit. It doesn't have to rise like it normally would if you're cooking it in a pan or on the cookie sheet. So let's look at. Oh yes. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to lift this off and put it on my stone, and I just spritz it a couple of times and let it bake on my stone.
What breads can you do that with?
Any bread.
The loaf bread?
Yeah. I rarely cook my bread in a loaf pan anymore. I usually cook it on a stone or in the cloche.
So it comes out shaped like a loaf?
Nope. It's a free form, something like this. Yeah. I think that one's ready to bake. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the oven. Oh, sorry. Back in the, hello. I'm going to go in and put this one in the oven over here that the camera can see. And then I like to spritz with a little bit of water. It really helps the bread to rise nicely in the oven. And it gives a nice finish on the crust. So I'm just going to stick it in the 350-degree oven here. Set the timer. Oop. Timers, thermometers, bench scrapers, rollers. Those are your friends. All right, so let's do our herb swirl. I'm going to get another 3 tablespoons of butter. This is so soft, I'm just going to kind of sit it in there. I might regret it, but we used to. I don't know if we still have them. I love them. We have another version. We have a stainless steel one that I use at home. The reason we had to find these is the stainless steel ones, even though they were stainless steel, they weren't magnetic. And these are induction burners, so it has to be magnetic. So we do have the stainless steel ones out there. Oh, okay, yeah. That's why we started carrying these. And I maybe they discontinued them. I just can't remember why I haven't seen them out there, you're right. I don't shop in my store very much. Yes, and we love you for it. Thank you. All right, so now let's make the herb swirl. I have no idea how this bread is going to taste. I probably should taste it before I do this bread, but it doesn't matter. My kids say I do this all the time, try a new recipe when company's coming. But last night, I was going to just use Italian seasoning, but my favorite herb mixture for bread, honestly, right now, is the tzatziki. It's a very popular in the Middle East. When we were in Israel, every day you had usually a tzatziki sauce, yogurt, cucumber, and seasoning. I've always made my own and I put a little garlic, a little salt, taste it. Ooh, it needs something. I'm going to tell you, the recipe on here is for 1 cup of yogurt, half a cup of diced cucumber, and a tablespoon of this seasoning. It's amazing. It's perfect. You won't need any other seasoning. And then when I make my pita bread now, since I've gone to Israel and come back, I have to, isn't that the best? The pita bread is just so delicious. And then we just put, serve it with a little oil with the tzatziki seasoning. My sourdough, when I make my crumpets, I fry my crumpets in garlic oil, and then I sprinkle it with the tzatziki seasoning. The tzatziki has garlic, onion, sea salt, dill weed. I really like the dill weed. Black pepper, lemon, mustard seed, chives, ginger, and lemon oil. Everything delicious is in this. So last night I was like, I'm going to use tzatziki in my herb bread. So I think you're going to love it. I hope we are. We'll all try it together. So, but it's just so good. I like Charmaine's, the Salt Sisters seasonings. The only problem there is because they do have so much salt in them, they can sometimes make the bread too salty. So make sure, for sure, you're using unsalted butter, and then maybe even cut some of the salt out of the recipe if you're going to use the Salt Sisters, which I love the Tuscan and the bread dipping, but I made it for church one night, took it to church, and was like, we couldn't eat it because it was so salty. And that's why I thought last night, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to use the tzatziki. It doesn't have quite as much. Did it even have salt? Yes, it does have a little salt. It's not as salty as the Salt Sisters, but I mean, I still love the Salt Sisters. Yes. The pita bread, I can't remember, but it was it's the best pita bread. Yeah. I'm not sure, but we can get it for you if you ask for it. If you ever want a recipe, just email and they'll send it to you, okay? We're working on new things, ways of making classes available, and we got new video equipment, and so we're working on ways to Zoom, to Facebook Live, to live stream, to YouTube, to all kinds of things. I think it's slightly different because when I went to Israel, a real good friend of mine last Christmas gave me an Israeli book. The pita bread in there is amazing. So it might be a little bit different. I can't remember now. Remember, I birthed that baby, and I don't remember a thing about it now. Those labor pains are gone. No, that was an old pita bread recipe that I've had for years, but it was, the Israeli book is called Breaking Bread. And it's all kinds of Israeli breads. Okay, so again, we're just making a rectangle. And like I said, actually the wider you make this rectangle this way, with cinnamon rolls, the bigger your cinnamon roll is going to be. Okay, so width here, when you roll it up, it's going to make a bigger roll. Length will make a smaller roll but give you more rolls, okay? So we kind of want more layers on this bread. All right, so again, we're just going to take our butter. I think we could go ahead and cut this one and let them taste it. Y'all haven't had any food in a little while, right? Are you hungry? I didn't think about that. I was like, oh, we can do that. You could do anything here. Yeah. Yes. So they're going to cut that beautiful loaf. That's the only hard part is cutting your loaf. You could use whatever you want. I would probably use something a little drier and finer, like a Parmesan or Dubliner. Especially, I think the Dubliner or Parmesan would be delicious with the tzatziki seasoning. And the Parmesan pull-apart rolls that we're about to do, I think would be delicious with the tzatziki. But since we've already done that, I guess I'll just use Italian seasoning. I don't know. Maybe we should do the tzatziki again. What do y'all think? Yeah. Anyway, well, y'all taste that and tell me if it's okay. So just going to take our tzatziki, and I use a couple of tablespoons and just sprinkle it over. Tell me if it's too salty or whatever. You never know quite how to slice these swirls. That's why I almost like the small ones, because then we just kind of sliced it almost like a cake. I took these to church Wednesday night. I keep thinking today's Saturday, and like I got to get home for the Georgia game. There's not going to be a Georgia game? I hadn't heard. No, it ain't going to be any of that. And I've got to go to a wedding anyway. Well, I don't have to, but I'll be at a wedding, so I won't miss anything. I have been totally not listening to news this week. I'm just like, I ain't doing it. All right. So that was the tzatziki, probably what, 2 or 3 tablespoons in there. And again, just roll it up tight like we did. Because you really want this one to be a little bit fatter so you'll have enough to work with. Okay, then take our dough divider and just make sure it goes down. And the other reason I don't use a knife here is the silicone mats, you should not cut on them. So with like my cinnamon rolls, I'll use my dough divider because it's not so sharp that it's going to slice your silicone mat. All right. Just start wrapping it up. Okay, and then roll it. How easy is that? And it's so impressive. Everybody thinks you just are marvelous. You are marvelous. Okay. And normally I would let it rest, you know, about 10 minutes, but I may go ahead and stick it in the cloche because it's preheating. So getting back to my cloches and what I've done there is, so typically what I do is I'll put my cloche in the oven, turn it on to preheat while I'm shaping my loaves. My oven at home preheats very, very, very quickly. These ovens here, you could read a whole novel, and they seem to take 15, 20 minutes or more to preheat. So I typically turn on all my ovens when before class. So, but that's how I typically do it, is just stick the cloches in, let them preheat while the oven's preheating. Normally then I shape my loaves, let them sit, about 10 minutes just to get a little airy, and then drop them down in the cloches. If you want to use parchment paper here, that would be easy to pick them up, but I just kind of lift them and just put them in the cloche. Let's go back and just talk about the bread cloches for a minute. There's 3 styles. The clay ones by Ramertoff, of course, they're not as pretty as the Emile Henry one, but more functional maybe. I use them a lot. I prefer the bowl type for sourdough. Also, they're stew pots, so you can bake and cook in them. You can do a chicken or do stew or whatever and pop it in the oven. So that makes the Ramertoff ones a little more versatile. The smaller size that we have can only hold a half a recipe. A full recipe just doesn't have the room to rise. The larger Ramertoff can easily hold a large recipe, and again, it being a pot, you can cook other things in it. What is a bread cloche? A bread cloche mimics a brick bread oven. The clay, the unglazed clay, even the Emile that's glazed on the outside is unglazed on the inside. So how does it work? It works by, how does it allow you to put unrisen bread in there and it rises and bakes all at the same time? It works by, as the dough starts warming up, first of all, the clay lid protects the dough from getting too hot as soon as you put it in the oven. Whereas if it's exposed, it's going to get hot right away, right? It's going to be exposed to the 350 temperature. But the cloche protects it. As the dough starts warming up from the heat of the oven, it starts evaporating moisture off. The clay collects that, creates a very moist environment inside the pot. What did I tell you yeast likes? Warm and moist, right? So it's just created the perfect environment, causing the bread to rise very quickly before it gets to the hot temperature of the oven to then start baking. So that's how it rises and bakes all in 35 minutes. It's amazing. Yes? Only when I'm doing sourdough or the overnight, like no knead breads, then I will do the lid and the base. But just for my regular yeasted breads, I just preheat the base. Lisa, can you hand me the base to the cloche, the red cloche? Yeah, this is the base to the cloche. And the nice thing about it is, so like when I take bread every Wednesday to church, it's usually in this, I bake it in this cloche, and I just take it out of the oven, take it, and then I just cut it right there. I serve it on this platter and cut it. So, yeah. Emile Henry, it's a French company. It's made in France. There's no lead or any undesirables in your pieces. The company was started in 1850. It's still in the original family. The son wanted to be a potter. He traveled learning as an apprentice all over. But when he decided, though, he didn't want decorative pieces. He wanted functional pieces. His first piece was the Emile pie pan. So that's all of the Emile dishes are really beautiful. They're more expensive. They do come from France. And so like this bread cloche is $130. When we first got it and started using it, we were like, nobody's ever going to pay $130. I wouldn't pay. Yeah, once you bake bread in it, you're like, yeah, that's, and like I said, pretty much I bake bread in my cloche. Now, a couple of years ago, we discovered the Ramertoff cloches. Not as elegant and pretty, but very functional. And these small cloches are like $46, $49. And the larger one, I think, is $79. So definitely a little more economical in your price range. And they do the same thing. They make wonderful Christmas gifts. And, you know, like I said, the Ramertoff ones you can use as a pot. I do love I have the Emile at home. I haven't gone to the Ramertoff because I have the Emile. I do love my Emile, and it's a beautiful Christmas gift too. So, all right, let's get our swirls swirling in the oven. Yes, how was it? Was it amazing? Okay, a little salty? Okay, all right. So go a little lighter. You probably don't need that much seasoning on there. I didn't know how much to do. Yeah. So just go a little lighter. You really didn't need that much probably. All right. So I'm just going to open my oven, and I'm going to quickly just drop my breads into my cloches. They're hot, and I just lift them up and gently just drop them in. And that's why if you want to use parchment, that's great. With cloches, I always give it a good spritz on the hot cloche. That creates steam. What is yeast like? Warm and moist, right? All right, and here's where I set my timer for 35 minutes. Okay, let's see how my, y'all aren't going to believe that challah bread. So beautiful. The bread baker, the loaf pan, that's like, I think it's 1.5 pound loaf. Okay. Yeah. So it'd be a little more than half. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's clean up our mess here. Y'all are not going to believe how beautiful the challah bread is. It is so gorgeous. All right, I'm going to scrape this up. And I'm actually going to get my ladies to help me here. I'm going to roll a few of these out for you. So these, I almost cut this from the class because I got a little stressed right before the class. I think we're still doing okay because after this, all we have to do is the pie dough and the scones, and we've already got pies made. So even if I run right up to the end, you're all right. So this is a single recipe, okay? So let's go to the Parmesan pull-aparts. Okay, so it says there a half of basic bread dough. So you're going to cut your one recipe in half. So now I'm thinking, should I use the tzatziki and the Parmesan or just Italian seasoning? What do y'all think? Tzatziki? Okay. I just think the Parmesan and that is going to go together so well. Yeah. I'm telling you, we love the tzatziki. It's a yogurt, the cucumber, and that. I do the coffee rub steak tips from our new Olivelli oils and vinegars. And that's one of my favorite recipes. And I don't like coffee. I don't drink coffee. But the coffee rub steak tips and then the Mediterranean rub on the roasted potatoes. And then usually I do roasted asparagus with the avocado oil and a little lemon oil and the Meyer lemon vinegar and a little bit of the tzatziki on that after it's roasted. And then the tzatziki yogurt dressing or whatever, and we put it everywhere. We eat it on the bread, we put it with the meat, we put it with the potato. We heap it up on our plate and just eat it. It is so, so delicious. Okay. Now, how do I take some off of that? And now it's like really small. Okay, we don't care. All right, so what we're gonna do for these is these are gonna cook in a cake pan, a 9-inch cake pan or any kind of round pan. So we're gonna do 1/3 cup of butter, which is 5 tablespoons. And roughly, I mean, you can, if you're melting butter, just melt butter. No. Okay, she asked, did I prep my pan at all? This is the amazing USA pans. And so thank you for asking because I always make the mistake of not clarifying that with the USA pans, they're the only truly non-stick pan. They're aluminized steel. Aluminum is your best conductor of heat, which is why all your commercial bakeware is aluminum. So it's aluminized steel. There is steel there. And it's a process to aluminize that steel, but then it's all completely coated with silicone. So no aluminum touches your pan, yet completely non-stick. And guess where they're made? USA. So I love it. USA pan. So I forget to point out that I'm not spraying my pan, my muffin pan, my cake pan, even a cake. If you put a cake in here, you don't have to butter and flour your pan. Just put the cake in, it will come out. So I don't prepare my pans because I don't have to. But if you don't have a pan at home, what I would a USA pan, a silicone pan, what I would probably do is melt my butter in here and then pour the butter in a bowl. Do you know what I'm saying? So then you've got a little coat of butter on the pan. Did that make sense? Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, as soon as our butter melts, we're going to... I forgot the dinner rolls. I was thinking we were done and I could move to pie. But the dinner rolls, I'll show you real quick what we're going to do. This is a bowl of Parmesan cheese. What do you think? I thought I was using it in like 4 recipes, and so I got like 4 blocks, so I'll freeze the rest. So what we're going to do here is a cup of Parmesan cheese. Oh man, that smells so good. And We'll use our tzatziki since y'all liked it. I think this is going to be really delicious. All right, so we'll use a tablespoon. Heck, there we go. Close enough. All right, so we're just going to mix this up. All right, ladies, I'm fixing to pass this off to you to do, so y'all better be watching. And I'll make y'all another bowl. Sarah, if you could get me the tzatziki, that big package of tzatziki, I do need a little bit more, since they talked me into using it. Italian seasoning used to be my go-to for everything. Now it's one of these seasonings, either the Salt Sisters or the Olivelli mixes. Thank you. These are for us. We don't sell them in big bags like this. However, I have an inside track, and this is what I ordered: a tzatziki, a coffee rub, and a Mediterranean rub in big bags for me personally at home because I use it so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there's a recipe out there. One of the recipe cards is coffee rub steak tips. And so you just cut like a top sirloin steak into chunks and toss it with caramelized garlic oil, the infused olivelli oil, and the coffee rub. And then just let it marinate for, 15, 20 minutes while you get other things ready. And then right before you're ready to serve it, just put some caramelized garlic oil in the pan and fry them. I mean, you just kind of sear them, and they only take a couple of minutes because they're just chunks. Oh my gosh, it's so delicious. And then the last class, were any of y'all in the fall comfort? Okay, so we do Sukkot. So a few weeks ago, one of the things Brad and I, we celebrate Sukkot with our church. And one of the things Brad and I bring to the table is we do barbecue. We do a breakfast for church one of the days. And Brad is known for his barbecue omelets. Well, we don't do pork. And so all these years we've done chicken, and then, just cook chicken and put the barbecue sauce on it because chicken is mild. Well, this year I thought, I really don't like the chicken barbecue. I like beef, so I'm going to get a roast. When I went and I got the roast, and I just got cheap London broil, came home and I was about to cook it. And normally I just put some water in there and just cook it because I'm going to load it with barbecue sauce. I thought, I think I'm going to put this coffee rub on there. So I drizzled it with a little caramelized garlic oil, a little bit of the coffee rub on both sides, seared it, put a little bit of water in my pressure cooker, pressured it for 45 minutes. Oh my goodness gracious. It is delicious. Isn't it delicious? And then in the comfort class, I did Parmesan polenta and just poured it in a dish, and then shredded the coffee rub roast and just poured it all over the Parmesan polenta. Delicious. So you asked, and my stew, my chuck wagon stew that I make in my pressure cooker class that I pour coffee over, I now use the coffee rub and don't even have, because I don't drink coffee, so I never have coffee around. And I'm always having to buy instant. Yeah. Okay, we better finish this, and then I'll answer some. Do you have a question? Oh, it's delicious. It's just delicious. It's so delicious. Okay, so this is 1/2 of the recipe, half of the basic bread dough. So I wouldn't get real crazy here, like measuring these too much. This is kind of a monkey bread. Y'all know what monkey bread is? Okay, so you're just gonna kind of cut this in 24 pieces. So they're gonna be kind of small. And, all right, that's 5, 6. Sorry, we have customers in the store. Somebody said that in the evaluation that they were distracting. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. You go out there and tell them to be quiet. Go ahead. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I didn't count that at all, but yeah. So now we're just going to roll them in balls. We're going to need a little flour. And I'm going to pass this off to them. But just kind of roll them in balls that you don't have to be perfect because they're going to all rise together. This is what y'all are doing, ladies, in a minute. Now, monkey bread, you could dip in butter. and dip in the cinnamon sugar mixture, okay, and throw it in a pan. They're going to all just rise here together, okay? So what we're going to do, where's my butter? We're going to dip in butter, dip in this. Oh my gosh, these are going to, yep, boom, okay? And just keep doing that. And the butter is going to actually, the warm butter is going to make these rise pretty quickly. I tell you what, I'll pass this one off to you guys, and I'll keep doing this one batch. Here's this. I need to melt you some butter, though. You can go ahead and start dividing that if you want. Yes? I'll bake those as soon as the other one's done. I don't know how much that was, but all right. Okay, let's melt that. Okay, so drop it in the butter, roll it in the Parmesan, toss it in here. Y'all are going to be glad I didn't cut these out. I got a little stressed because I was running late this morning. I said, I think I'm just going to scratch the Parmesan rolls. And Ashley was like, do it, just scratch it. And I'm like, no, I can't. I am trying to not do so much in one class. Whoop, butter. And then what we're going to do, once we get all these in here, then we'll just sprinkle the Parmesan and the rest of the butter on top.
And how much is that a whole recipe?
This is a half. So a half goes in each 9-inch pan. You could totally, if you wanted to, you know, monkey bread was typically done like in a bundt pan. You could probably do the whole recipe in a bundt pan like you do monkey bread. I looked up that whole thing of how it got called monkey bread, and I never could find anything real satisfactory. Okay. Bread. No, your cakes and your, very good question. So internal temperature of your bread is about 190, but cakes and things, it's going to be the toothpick test. Did it come out clean? Or does it spring back when I touch it? Here's y'all's butter. Oh, 24. They're just tiny little balls. 24 out of each one. Yeah, they're just little. Okay. See, look. Oh, right over here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh man, I did it again. Okay. All right. I'm gonna run out of cheese. Might have to do a little more cheese here. So just kind of roll them lightly in cheese. So I'm just, and it doesn't have to be real exact. They're going to all rise together. So, okay, so just dip in butter, dip in this. I'm going to steal a little of y'all's cheese, and then I'll make y'all some more. So if you can bring me the cheese over here. So maybe a cup and a half of cheese. Yeah, I'll get y'all a little bit more in a minute. And you think it's not going to fill the pan, and then it does all of a sudden. You're like, see? And these you can kind of dump them out and then have them on a tray or lift them out. I'm sorry, I'm not looking in my screen up there that they gave me so I'd know when I'm in the screen and not. Now, you can either pour the butter over now and bake these, or you can pour it over after they're baked. But okay, So there we go. I'm making them work today because I'm fixing to pass off dinner rolls to them too. Okay, these are gonna rise just slightly. Again, maybe preheat your oven and then let them go in. They don't have to rise a lot because the warm butter and they're just balls. Monkey bread, you never rose. It's kind of that chewy, gooey texture. You know what I'm saying? How many of y'all have monkey bread? Yeah? And that's why you don't let them rise, and you know, so that it's kind of rises a little bit in the oven, but it's got a little chew to it. Yeah. So you could do, like I said, the same thing with cinnamon and butter here, if you wanted to do a sweet bread. All right, let me give them a little more cheese. I got so much cheese here. What did I do with it? Here it is. Good. I'm glad I'm going to get to taste this bread because I really was wondering what it was going to taste like. So, and like I said, if you thought it was a little salty, just don't go quite as heavy. You know, it really doesn't need that much in there. I got a little carried away. I was almost doing it like the cinnamon bread. I'm like, this doesn't need to be that heavy sprinkled. Yeah. 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 Yep. Well, I'd probably stick them in the freezer. If you're doing it the day before, I would stick it in the freezer just like this. Pull it out early or 5-6 hours before you're ready to bake. Just so they have time to, if your house is cool, a little longer. Yeah. All right, ladies, here you go. And then when you get done, let's see, I don't know what temperature these are all at. All right, that's the upper. The lower is, what are these supposed to cook at? 375? Okay. The top one is at 375, so they can go in there. Not super amount. Just once y'all get them done, then they can just go in. Yep. All right. So let's do our dinner rolls. Let me get rid of some of this clutter. Okay. Any questions? How y'all doing? We are going to get to pie. It's 1:45. I think I can do it. I'm going to real quick show you how I do the dinner rolls, but they're pretty easy. So, yes. Yes? Oh, yeah. I do not believe, I like the design of the Ankish room better, and something has changed on the Bosch mixer in the last 5 to 10 years that it just doesn't seem to hold up as well as it used to. I have people come in the store, and I've had my Bosch 25 years, you know. It's just the quality of the Ankish room is hands down no comparison. The way the mixer mixes like this. If a child puts their hand in there, that's a problem. Getting flour in there while it's mixing is a problem. Did you see how this was open? I just add my flour, my ingredients. It's just the design also. It's a worm gear transmission. It's built to last a lifetime. I mean, it's built to last. Not going to say a lifetime. My personal mixer is 20, what is this, 19, what year? 2020, never mind. What was I thinking? My personal mixer is 27 years old. I catered weddings with it, making 300 rolls. You know, I made 6 loaves of bread twice a week in my mixer. It makes a lot of bread dough. And like I said, the 2 mixers that are in Haiti, they've been using them every day for 4 years, and you just won't get that with any other mixer. Not the KitchenAid, not the Bosch, not the Viking, not any of the other mixers on the market. So it's a little more, oh, pull it out. Come on, Sarah. Got a little brown. Yeah, I set it for 35. I should have only set it for 30. So it's a little brown, but it'll be all right. So go 30, not 35. Oh, sorry. Here. Can you bring that pan and put it in the oven? They're trying to keep me. They're going to tie me with a chain. If y'all see me, I'm going to go, ugh. It's because they've chained me. They're trying. They're trying. Let's do 30 on those. All right. What am I doing? Dinner rolls. All right, so here's our dinner roll bread that we did. This was with the milk and the butter, okay? And we just let it knead. Look how beautiful that dough is. And your dough should be soft. You know, if you dump out a big ball of dough and it doesn't stretch at all, then that you've got a little too much flour, and too much flour is going to make your dough a little stiffer. So anyway, so there's my dough. Now, what I typically do for these dinner rolls, to make those pretty dinner rolls like you're going to have, I put some butter in the pan, pop my pan in the oven, let my butter melt just a little bit, then shape my rolls and put them in there. And the warm pan, they're going to rise very, very quickly. But that just gives me a little buttery bottom. Who doesn't like a buttery bottom? Oh, those are ready? Okay, so here's our Parmesan rolls. Yeah, so it just says let rise while the oven preheats. My ovens are preheated, so they probably could rise a little bit longer than this little few minutes, but we're going to just go ahead and pop them in. Y'all can either wait for these or go ahead and give them chicken salad if you want. It's in the back refrigerator, and if you want to bring it to me, I'll tell them what it is. So, yeah, when I was getting ready for this class, I started realizing it was bread, 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 pie, cookies, bread, bread, which, hey, they don't call us bread Beckers for nothing now, do they? So I was like, well, I got to give them something. And then I thought, these dinner rolls really do hold over very well. So go ahead and make a lot, and you're all going to have leftover turkey, right? Yep, everybody has that. So you can either use your leftover turkey to make the cranberry chicken salad, or you can go ahead. We love chicken salad at our house. And even my kids that swear they don't like mayonnaise, tell me how they like the chicken salad. My son would just as soon have chicken salad on a roll as anything. And so this is something I love having around during the holidays, because everyone piles in at our house a lot, or we go to my daughter's house, and we're game players, big, big game players. So it's nice having something around. I do the coffee rub roast, and we have like French dip beef sandwiches. I do chicken salad, and we have chicken salad sandwiches. So there's always something there. I may make a pot of soup, one day or something like that. So I forgot what I was telling you. Oh, so I put the recipe for the chicken salad in there that you could easily make out of leftover turkey. But here's what I did, because I make chicken salad a good bit. So I bought the chicken. And normally when I make the chicken salad, I just throw it in my pressure cooker. I maybe put a little carrots and onions in there, because I never waste cooking chicken to have chicken broth. And then I may sprinkle some, Italian seasoning or a little salt, whatever, and cook it. But yesterday, I got this wild idea. I'm like, okay, if I am making this cranberry chicken salad, orange cranberry chicken salad, what if I marinate the chicken in the blood orange olive oil, which is my favorite. I've graduated at home to a 500 milliliter bottle of the blood orange, the caramelized garlic, and the peppered bacon are my 3 oils. And then the spices are tzatziki, Mediterranean, and what's the other one? Coffee rub. Those are my three. So that's I have. And I use these all the time. Substitute this oil in your muffin recipe. Add a cup of pumpkin, little pumpkin pie spice, little handful of cranberries. Oh my gosh, the best cranberry muffins you've ever tasted. And you don't need the orange. You go to make something orange and you don't have orange, you know, so what are you going to do? But anyway, so I marinated the chicken yesterday for just about an hour. And I put the recipe there at the bottom of the page. It should be, isn't it? Yeah. So third a cup of the oil, a quarter cup of the cranberry spice vinegar, and then a tablespoon or whatever it says there of the Mediterranean rub, which is by Olivelli, and a little teaspoon of salt. And I just let it marinate, and I just dump everything in a Ziploc bag, then throw my chicken in and just squish it all around and just let it sit here. And then at some point yesterday, I was like, I got to get the chicken cooked so it'll cool so I can make the salad. I put about that much water in the pressure cooker, dumped my whole bag of chicken in, popped the lid on the pressure cooker, added the water to create the steam, and then I, what was I saying? Oh, then I pressured it. Well, that was 8 pounds of chicken. I pressured it for about 20 minutes, but probably 10 to 15 for 4 pounds. Be plenty. And yeah, so. Blood orange, caramelized garlic, and the peppered bacon. And I don't know if you know about the Olivelli oils. They're amazing. Keep them on your counter so you see them. Use them. Don't put them in a pretty basket and sit them aside. You'll forget about them. Just keep them there. When we fry eggs in the morning, we use caramelized garlic or the peppered bacon to scramble the eggs. Tastes like bacon. These are all truly extra virgin olive oils. They are infused with all natural ingredients, completely vegan. There's no, so they didn't infuse it with a slab of bacon. And even the sweet cream butter does not have butter in it. They find the naturally occurring substance that gives butter its flavor, and that's what they infuse the olive oil with. So that's 9, 12, 15. Okay, so I just need to, I'm not going to measure these this time. I'm just going to kind of eyeball them. They're prettier if you weigh them. But I'm like, y'all have seen me weigh enough. Besides, who wants scales at Thanksgiving and Christmas? Nobody. Kitchen tools, scale, this guy, roller, thermometer. These are tools that you really, silicone mat, you can't do without. Okay, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Yeah. So I do 15. I actually think I got a little smaller pan than I normally use, so we're going to see how this works out. Phoebe, you want to roll some rolls? Come on. This dough's a little stiff. I've never done it in the bread machine. I'm usually making double and triple. So I probably, what did we do, 3 1/4? Is that what I did? I'd back it down to 3. This is a little stiff, so your rolls are going to be a little heavier. Okay, so here's my butter. And like I said, just a little bit. I mean, if you really want it swimming in butter, you can do that. But I just do a little bit here, and I just pop them in. Just want to round these. So what I kind of do on my rolls is I just kind of tuck them under, and then I cup my hand and just kind of roll, okay? And then just kind of put the ugly side down. And if every side is ugly, then roll it some more. Okay, thankfully I have pie dough already made, so y'all are sitting here going, we're not going to get out of here. You are. And I have the pie already made. And the cookies. I'm not going to show you how to make the cookies. You all know how to make cookies. And you can kind of squish these together. You're doing so good.
Trying to keep up.
You're doing great. And then the warm pan will help these rise pretty quickly. You can stick them in a proofing oven. If you don't have a proofing oven and your house is cold, and you want them to rise and be a little more delicate, you can turn your oven on the lowest setting. If it's an old oven, probably the lowest setting is like 200, 225. So turn it on while you're shaping. Turn it on, let your butter melt at that, and then pull it out. And while you're shaping your dough or your loaves or whatever, and then you can just pop it. Thank you very much, madam. You can just pop it in that warm oven. Turn it off once you finish, because 225 is too hot for your yeast. So there's the dinner rolls. Okay, isn't that good? See how soft that roll is? It just really, really is nice. And what a great, so go ahead while you're making, make 2 pans, so you have leftovers for a turkey sandwich, even if you don't want to make the turkey salad. So we're going to let this rise now, and then we'll bake it and be done with that. Okay, we have really put this mat to the test, haven't we? Yes, yes, yes. Oh. You didn't get food? They did. I think they're coming. Y'all didn't get it? We don't want to leave anybody out. How's the chicken salad? Yeah. Yes. And the flavors really meld, the longer it sits. And it really keeps very well with all that mayonnaise in there and stuff. And then what I did is once I made the recipe, then I tasted it. And I'm like, needs a little sweetness to bring out the flavor. So I did drizzle a little honey. I did put the 2 tablespoons of honey in there. And then I did drizzle with a little more of the oil and vinegar just over it to give it some, without having to add more mayonnaise, just give it a little bit of wetness there. So, because sometimes if you get the wetness by adding mayonnaise, then it just all of a sudden tastes like mayonnaise. Okay, y'all are ready for pie dough? All right, this is the coolest thing ever. All right, so let's turn to perfect pie crusts. Now, you're going to look at this and go, oh dear goodness gracious, this is way too complicated. It's not, and I'm going to give you the basics, but it's long because I tell you how to do a pre-baked pie crust and a double pie crust and all of that, okay? So this is the basic steps. Remember, pie dough, biscuit dough, scones, it likes cold ingredients, so you want your flour cold. Okay, so that's why we milled it in the beginning. It certainly didn't need to sit in there that long, but I wanted to go ahead and get it in there so we didn't get to this step, and then I'm like, oh crud, I gotta chill my flour. So there we go. And I went on and measured it, and pie dough is 4 basic ingredients: flour, salt, butter, and water, okay? So we're gonna put our teaspoon of salt in here and mix it up. Now, I am going to show you a trick that I learned for cutting in butter. First of all, I learned to freeze my butter, and then I'm going to grate it instead of chopping. Now, for years and years, I used which by the way, I'm going to use my Ankish room. Besides being a mixer, it has all types of optional attachments that you can buy. The basic unit comes with the big mixing bowl that we've been mixing with, the roller, the scraper, the white lid, and then this whipping bowl that's perfect for egg whites, whipping cream. These are your cake beaters, light cookie dough, the lemon cookies I mixed right up in here, a small batch of cookies. If you were going to double or triple the lemon cookie, do it in the big mixer. But this is the basic unit. This goes on this way. Will you see what that is? Oh, the bread down there. Oh, it looks perfect. So that's this mix. Whoops. and it whips like that, okay? So this is the basic unit. So a nice feature of this mixer is they made wraparound legs and rubberized the knob here, flips over on its side, and the attachments now go here. Perfect. You want to show them? Oh, let's check the temperature.
Yeah.
There you go. It's going to have to go about 5 more minutes, but if y'all want to look at it, there you go. Bring it up there in the, there you go. Beautiful. Okay. Let's let it go about 5 minutes. It was only at 150. Oh, man. Did I not? That was the timer.
What?
The bread and the cloche has been there this whole time. Great. Good thing y'all have already had it. Did I not set the timer? How long has it been in there?
30. I set the timer for that for 30 minutes. It's not ready yet.
All right. Oh, you know what? I bet that was the timer for this.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. Because my timer hasn't gone
So y'all remember how little it was when it went in? So now it's gonna, so where's my thermometer? Here it is. Have no idea how long it cooked. Okay, so it's at 175. So at this point, I'll probably take the lid off and let this brown up a little bit and finish cooking for, say, 5 more minutes. And this is the herb one. Thank you. Will you set that timer for 5 minutes for both of them? Okay. So, if I need a blender, this is my motor. So this is my blender attachment. Okay? So no need to have another motor and another appliance sitting around. One of my favorite attachments that I use a lot, I'm going to get these hot lids out of the way before I touch them and they burn me. I use the slicer shredder a lot. And this is it. It comes with 3 blades. This is the basic shredding blade. This is the Parmesan cheese blade, which is what I grated that whole bowl of Parmesan cheese. And it comes with a slicing blade as well. Here's how it's going to fit in. There's a little post there. This is like a little keyhole for that post. You just line it up and slide it on. Well, this is very tight for some reason today. There we go. Okay. It's kind of weird. Just tighten that down. Okay, so now instead of cutting my butter in, I start with frozen butter and I shred it right into there. So the pie dough calls for 2 sticks of butter, and we're just going to shred it. Now, the recipe tells you to leave 3/4 of it to cut in later. Because I start with frozen butter, I don't necessarily worry about that so much because I find that the butter still stays kind of in chunks. And if you don't have time to freeze your butter, just stick it in the freezer while your flour is chilling, just so that it's really, really, really cold. Now here's a trick that I learned 2 years ago. I was invited to Zingerman's Bakery in Michigan to teach a bread making class. And I got to sit in on some classes, and of course they're chefs and they know the correct way to do it. I think they didn't like the way I measured my flour, and they were like, "Oh dear," but you know, they are experts, and I'm not necessarily. So anyway, but they showed me this trick for making pie dough, not the grating part. They used cold butter, and they just cut it in. I don't know why this is being so tight here. It wasn't like this yesterday. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. It usually comes right off. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to take a little bit of this butter out, and I'll show you how you can cut it in to do it according to the directions. Okay, so here's what I didn't know before I went to the class. You all hear about not overworking pie dough, that it's going to get very stiff. In bread dough, you need it to form what's called gluten. Gluten is not an evil thing that is in bread. Gluten is the term given to the stretchy strands of protein that form when you hydrate flour. You want yeast bread to be stretchy so it traps the gas, that the carbon dioxide gas that the yeast produces. So you want gluten development in bread. You don't want it in biscuits, pie dough, and things like that. So if you work that dough after you've added the water, gluten is formed by hydrating the flour. So if you work it and work it and work it, you're going to form gluten. So there's two ways we keep that from happening. Number one, we don't work the dough so much. But number two, at this point, you can't overwork your flour. You can't, it's not dough yet. You haven't added the water. So what we do is we take our butter and we run it through our hands with the flour. You're coating the flour with butter. Coating the flour with butter keeps it from hydrating, so keeps it from forming gluten. Does that make sense? So that's what we're doing here. So, and then the reason you want cold butter is then as that butter starts to melt, so it stays in pieces in your flour or in your biscuit or in your pie dough. And then when it heats in the oven, the moisture like pops and expands and creates this flaky biscuit or pie crust. So now, it is impossible to see the color change here. Okay, so there's our bread. Yep. Yeah, that's okay. And I'm going to make a special holiday butter for you to eat on that bread. And then I'm smelling the Parmesan. I can't believe I burned that big one. It'll be all right. Are those, how long have they been in there? All right, let's see if it's done. Okay. It says they're 180, but they feel a little gooey.
Was that the cheese?
I don't know, but they look brown. They look beautiful. Look, and I've been smelling them. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna let them cool just about 4 or 5 minutes over there for a minute, and then bring them back to me, and I'll put them. I'll show you how we'll just lift them out and put them on a plate so you can serve them. Okay, if this were white flour, so if it had no color to it, you would really be able to see the color change. And also because I'm using red wheat, you're not going to see the color change very well. But what you want to do is just take that butter, rub your hands like your hands are cold. Ooh, I'm freezing. And just rub it and get all that flour coated with the butter. Years ago, I used to use a food processor, and I know that's very easy to whip pie dough up and nothing flat. But when you do it that way, and you totally get that butter where the flour and butter mixture is almost gritty like sand, that's why your pie dough is going to be gritty, okay? It's going to be grainy, which for years I made it that way, and I still loved it. But if you want some flake You've got to leave some chunks of butter, okay? So this is what we're going to do. And let me show you. So here we've worked this. You can't overwork it at this point. Okay, thank you. Sarah, yeah, we need to get the cloches out. Y'all burn my bread. All right, so here we've worked it. And here, Sarah, I'm going to let you sit those right here. Sit one there. Huh?
I said, I almost forgot the clothes.
There we go. Sit that one there, and then we'll take them out in a minute. All right. All right, but I want to show you. Where's my? I'm looking for, here it is. All right. So here is my soft wheat flour that doesn't have butter in it. So if you look at the color, you can tell. So if you look at it side by side, you can go, okay, I am working it. If it was completely white flour, it would turn yellow, very, very yellow. But it's hard to see here. So we've got this worked in very well. It's still not as fine as if you had pulsed this in a food processor. And here's where, Cheryl, you can, these are called pie crumbles. So freeze this. So then all you have to do is take it out and add water. And this step is not that bad, but it does get a little tedious. Or you can go ahead and completely make your pie dough, and it'll keep for 3 to 6 days in the refrigerator, just already made, which is what I'm going to take out for you in a minute. Because now we'll add the rest of this butter and just kind of mix it in. Teresa, I need a cup of very cold water. If you can get me some water out of the, here's a measuring cup. Now, whoops, here's something that I discovered yesterday and the last few days. Just get it out of the dispenser. The red wheat seems to be lower moisture, the soft red wheat, than the soft white wheat. And so I found that two things. It didn't need as much flour. I had on the recipe 2 3/4. I changed it to 2 1/2 because I kept having to add so much more water. But I'll show you what you're aiming for and what you want it to look like, okay? Soft red. This is a pastry, so I'm using soft red and soft white. Yeah, I told you in the beginning of the class. No, we just started carrying it. We just got it from South Georgia. It's an organic, Georgia-grown soft red. Yeah, and that's what I made the scones with, remember? It was a long time ago, so. What are y'all eating now? Are you eating your chicken salad? Yeah. Okay, so this is going to take 1/3 cup of water is what it says. And I did notice yesterday that it kept taking 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra water. But here's what I'm going to determine. I'm going to go ahead, and in this, I'm going to go ahead. I know it's going to take probably 2 tablespoons. So that's why I think I changed the recipe to 1/3 plus 2 tablespoons. Remember, again, this is a little more flour because it's soft wheat, which I'll explain that when we talk about the cookies. But the fiber kind of absorbs that water. So make a well in the center. All you need is a fork. There's my 1/3 cup. Here's my 2 tablespoons. And you just work it in. Just start mixing, drawing in that flour from the edge. And you just want it to start clumping up. And if it looks like there's way too much dry, okay, then you might can drizzle a little more water on there. But this looks like it's all clumping together pretty nicely, okay? But you're still like, what in the world are we going to do with that? Now throw your fork away. Well, not away, but get rid of your fork. And now you just start squeezing that together. Not really kneading it and, really working, but just bring those crumbs all together. We need a little flour on our board, lightly floured. And I just kind of take it and get that crumbs up. Okay, it's still, it feels a little dry, but you're going to bring it together. And here's those clumps of butter that we left. you want to kind of stretch them through it. So you're just going to kind of push. I've got flour underneath now, so now it's sliding. You want to just kind of push it and then use your bench scraper or your hand to bring it back. And then just kind of push. We're not kneading, we're just kind of stretching it across, and then you just bring it together. Just a couple of times, bring it together then. And now I take my bench scraper and I divide this in half. For a top and a bottom. This is a double pie crust, or two if you're just doing an open pie. Okay? You can. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just give me a minute on those. Just give me a minute. Let me finish the pie dough real quick here. All right, so I'm just going to weigh it just to make sure I have, fairly even pieces here. And these are like 9-inch pies. Pretty close. So now what I do here is I just, what? Okay, so now I just make a disc. And you could use, a plastic storage bag, or I just use saran. And then I just wrap it, and this is going to be chilled. Usually about an hour. And what I do is I go ahead to help me when the rolling process, I go ahead and pat this out a little bit. Okay? And I try to, if your dough is a little dry, it'll tend to crack when you roll it. So I find it's better to be a little wet than dry. Okay? Okay, so now these chill for an hour or so, up to 5 or 6 days in the fridge. Whole grain flour tends to turn a little dark if it's because it'll oxidize. So, but I'll show you mine that I did yesterday. All right, I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. And I am so sorry. You guys are like looking over junk. I'm going to get all of this out of the way. Sorry, y'all should have said something first. Yes, And chilling the dough once you've rolled it actually keeps it from shrinking so much. So like if you're doing a crust that doesn't have a top and a bottom, or say a quiche, if you'll put it in your pie pan, roll it out, shape it, do your crust, whatever, and then put it in the refrigerator and let it chill, it keeps it from shrinking. You know how pie dough, you'll look beautiful and then it all kind of sucks in. And of course, then I use beans or something down in the bottom to keep that bottom from bubbling up. All right, Sarah, bring me that. Okay. All right, so what I do here is you can just take a lifter or you can just go like that. There we go. You can serve it like that, and there's your Parmesan rolls. And Sarah, if you could get me that white tray that we used this morning for the the swirls. Yeah. All right, and so these, they're still a little hot. They come right out. There we go. And for the swirl this morning, I made the vanilla glaze and just drizzled over it. There you go. Remember how tiny they were when they went in? And had I let them rest a little bit more before I baked them, they would have risen more. Okay, our rolls. Yep, our rolls are ready. So I'm going to get them baking. But y'all have already eaten the rolls. I would, before I let them rise. Once I shaped them, bag freezer. Okay? That's what you want to do. Then you take them out and let them rise. If you freeze there, they'll collapse. Okay? Once they've risen. So shape them, go in the freezer if you want to freeze them. Okay? So here's our swirls. Yep. I was going to ask somebody to look up and see how long they bake. How long do those bake? Okay, I'm going to go 20. Y'all are a great class. Thank you for being my class helper today. All right. So this pie is an interesting recipe. I actually just found it online. I have apple pie recipe, and I just kind of wanted to see if there was something different out there. And this one caught my attention because it said Grandma Opal's apple pie. Well, my husband's grandmother's name is Opal. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So it just kind of caught my attention. And then I read the reviews on it. And it said, this pie is so unique, so different. And the lady's blog that it came from, she was talking about how it had won blue ribbons at the fair and everything, and that it was so different. So the original recipe calls for melting the butter, adding flour, and making a paste out of that, and then water, honey granules, sucanat. And that's what it said. Well, I was like, I'm going to try this, and this sounds great. We're going to do this. And so funny, I came in Tuesday or Wednesday, and Tuesday, I guess it was, and was going to make it and try it and see if I liked it. Well, then I got to thinking, I was like, that pie didn't have any cinnamon in it. You can't make apple pie without cinnamon. So sure enough, I went back to the recipe and I was like, I think I missed something. And it was so funny as I scrolled down through the reviews, everybody was like, I think this person left out the cinnamon. You can't make apple pie without the cinnamon. And I made that, or somebody said, after reading the reviews, I added cinnamon. And so I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. And but then as I kept reading the reviews, one lady said, y'all are crazy. Just try this pie without the cinnamon. It is delicious. And but I was too chicken, and I didn't have multiple tries to make it. 'Cause I was like, I don't want to make this pie without cinnamon. So I did add the cinnamon, because another lady said she added cinnamon and vanilla and nutmeg, and it won a prize at a fair. So I like, okay. But then after somebody told me that they had made it without the cinnamon and kept telling people you really need to try it, it's real different. I think I will try it. And I got to thinking about it this morning. Like, I guess it's really like caramel, just a caramel apple, and caramel doesn't typically have cinnamon. So that's kind of what you're making. But today I made them all with cinnamon. It was delicious. And these are the Parmesan rolls that you're having now. And just cleaning up, because I really want my board here to stay intact. I don't want it slipping around, and I got so much flour underneath it was kind of going everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. You want to wrap it so they don't dry out. Mm-hmm. But yes, her question is, can you shape, roll it, put it in the pan, and freeze it? Absolutely. I think earlier, too, somebody asked me this, and I'm not sure that I completely answered. Freezing the bread dough, it's about a week in the freezer. You don't want to leave it too much longer than that. I don't know what kind of preservatives or things they put in the frozen bread doughs in the store that make them last longer, but this one, not so much. I think I've got so much flour under here, I can't get this to stick. Okay. Yes, the rustic pies. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a pie dough. Her question is, will it hold up for a free-form pie? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to get a bowl for my apples. I'm going to use my handy-dandy apple peeler corer slicer. If you don't have one of these, oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, so it's got a suction here instead of having to clamp. My old one at home has a clamp, which if you don't have a lip on your counter, that's a problem. But this is a nice suction. And all you have to do, pull this little lever, pull it back. Let me get some apples here. Where'd you get those apples? Just at Publix. I think 3 is going to be enough. And this is what I love. This makes apple pie making or dehydrating or anything apple so easy. Put the apple on the prong. If you want the peel on, you pull this little lever, pull this back, and lock this little peeler away. Can you see that? This little peeler. If you want it to peel the apple, you just leave that forward. And you just start turning. These bigger apples, it tends to leave some peel on no matter what. That's it. If you are making pies for Thanksgiving, apple pies, this is amazing. Just turn and go. It cores it and slices it. So here's what I discovered about my pie, this pie recipe. Go ahead and get everything ready before you start your syrup. I think in there I say, meanwhile, while this is happening, to go ahead and do the syrup. The syrup gets hot and thickens like caramel very, very quickly. And the longer you boil it or simmer it, the thicker and thicker it's going to get. So yesterday, I actually put all the pies together and refrigerated them because I wanted y'all to have warm pie. And I was like, I don't want to reheat them. And at some point yesterday, I was like, I'll refrigerate them all. Came in this morning, made the syrup, and poured it over, and then baked it. So you're going to see that this pie has no cinnamon or anything on the apples. So we're going to get everything ready. And I think 3 apples. I know it says 6 to 8, but those are big apples. And one of the reviews said, 8 apples? What were they, the size of plums? And anyway, so we're going to go with 3. I think 3 will be plenty. So that's 2 Granny Smith and Honey Crisp. But, I mean, you can do all Granny Smiths. I just kind of like the red and the green in there, not that anybody notices once you're done. The nice thing about this apparatus is just rinse it off and let it dry. And it's done. Okay. Yes, go ahead and rinse it off because the acid in the apples will kind of corrode it and sticky, and then you gotta deal with it. All right. I keep trying to get all the flour off of my mat, but I've got it too coated. You could freeze it. Okay. Now, this is actually making pie dough is a great way to just take out all your frustrations. Because, and rolling pin. So these are very, very cold because they've been in there since yesterday. At this point, flour is your friend, okay? You've got to flour your board. You can dust off the excess once you roll out your dough. And here's what I mean by taking out your frustrations. It's hard because it's cold. I really prefer it just an hour because then it's not so hard to roll. But see the chunks of butter in there? That's going to give you a flakier crust. Putting it in a food processor just pulverizes it all till it's like sand crumbly. And the chefs even did this. Just so you think, she's crazy. All right. She did? Okay, I don't feel bad now. So it's really hard. And the more you do this, the less you're going to be rolling. Now, if I've only chilled my dough for about an hour, I leave my top crust in there while I'm rolling, okay? But because it's so cold and so hard, I'm going on and taking my top crust out. But if like yesterday when I was making them, I made them and I let them chill for about an hour, and then I started rolling, and I just left everything in there until I was ready to roll that one. Okay, so we're ready to roll. A lot of people, me included, roll out pie dough like this. It's not the way you want to roll out pie dough, okay? You want to roll a couple of rolls, and I do love a French rolling pin, and then turn it. Roll, going away from you, and turn it. And see, now this one's kind of wanting to split apart there, so I just kind of keep pulling it back together. So roll and turn. Why do I turn? Make sure it's not sticking. The last thing you want to do is get this pie dough all rolled out and it's stuck to your board. So you turn it to make sure it's not sticking. And so you get a nice, even roll. See, I just kind of keep fixing that. And this is why I like my the French rolling pin for this, because it rolls, it moves. You see how I can make it move? And so if I've got a spot that's not cooperating, and if it's really, really, really cold, like this is really cold, which you want pie dough to be cold, but this is being a little bit stubborn. And see, this is red wheat, so it's got a little color to it. And you always want it to go bigger than your pan. So though my markings on my mat are here for 9-inch, that's a 9-inch circle. It's got to go bigger than that for a 9-inch pie pan. So I'm out pretty much to 14. I want to fix that. Pie dough is very forgiving, and who's going to see the bottom anyway? I mean, you don't want holes because you don't want it to leak out. Okay, so now if it's not sticking, totally can wipe some of that flour off if you want. But now we're going to lift it up. And a cold dough is easier to lift. You just want it hanging over your pie pan. You don't want to tug here, like you don't want to press it down. You want to lift and make it go down in there, okay? And then now we're going to take scissors, give it a haircut. And you still want to leave, it is going to shrink some, so you want to leave a little overhang there. And when I get this done, I'm going to go ahead and make the whipped cream so that y'all can go ahead and enjoy the pie. Just typically about 1/4 to 1/2 inch over the edge of the pie pan. If you're doing just a regular top crust, then you'll fold it under and pinch it, okay? But we're going to do a lattice crust here, all right? If it's going to be a while before I have my filling, then I'll just go ahead and stick this in the refrigerator and just let it stay chill. Or like I said, if I'm doing a quiche or something like that, I'll stick it in there so it doesn't shrink up so badly when I go to bake it, because it's not going to have a top crust to deal with. Okay, back to pie. Oh, I've got to be done in 15 minutes. I think I can. And I really thought we'd be done early. Huh. Oh, well. That's true. Maureen would have been fine. Or Ashley. She and I, y'all know the little portable stovetop, the gas that we use sometimes? It burst into flames one night. And Ashley, we are caught in going, not like burst, but it went, whoosh, you know, and we didn't know what to do. And we're both in the picture going, as we're trying to shoot it across the counter. And then one night I put it on there, like right next to the curtains, and somebody's like, I think you might gonna set those curtains on fire. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll move that away. All right. Yes, 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 I love them. The company that we got them from discontinued them for a while, and but we found them from somebody else. And if did y'all see what she's talking about? Like this one is paprika, so for doing deviled eggs. So I have several of them. So all you do is a little shot, and it's a nice little garnish. And don't forget, the higher you hold it up, the broader the spread. So that's what I decided. Instead of putting the cinnamon in the whipped cream, now I can just put it on top. It's called a pumpkin spice dispenser. All right, we do need to get this pie done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and roll out. Well, let's get the apples in the inside. Sounds like something just came in. Sorry, y'all have to hear all the noise. All right, so here's my apple. That's what that little gadget does. So then all we have to do for slices is just slice. And now you can fill your pie plate. So I just go around. And apples do, of course, shrink. God, this apple smells so good. I'm going to save one piece for me to eat. Apples do shrink, so kind of mound it. Even though you're going, oh, that's too full, just go ahead and mound it. But I was kind of like that one review that said, 8 apples? What kind of... Excuse me, always in threes. I hope y'all have enjoyed the class and the food today. I don't know if we gave you evaluation sheets, did we? Not? The pie dough, it's got a taste to it. Sorry about that noise. Something came in, and that's the pallet jack. All right, so you can see I'm mounding it over a little bit. Okay, you could certainly just do a streusel topping, but this is kind of cool. I'm going to show you how to do a lattice. All right? I'm going to take a bite. Okay, let's get some flour. I think why it was oozing out is now it was probably way overpressured. No? Up in the nozzle? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just used it. Oh, you know what? It still could. I just used it last week. And maybe that's what happened to all our ones here because I always use cinnamon. Yep. I'll just try to have to take it apart and clean it. Okay. Beat out your frustrations. But what makes this nice is like I did yesterday, is I got it all ready, put it in what? A trash bag, and stuck it in the refrigerator, and then just came in this morning and boiled the syrup and poured over it. Now, for this lattice work on top, we're not going to put it quite as tight as you normally would put a lattice, okay? Because I want to leave some holes for this syrup to go down in, okay? Because what we're going to do, notice we didn't put any butter, no flour, no nothing on the apples. Now we're just going to start rolling our lattice, our top crust. While I'm rolling, let's talk about the lemon cookies since we're running behind a little bit. White flour, white sugar, brown sugar recipe. Basic cookie recipe. Cup of butter, cup of sugar, cup of white sugar, cup of brown sugar, or whatever it is. What did it call for? I think it called for lemon juice. Remember I told you that I find that you need a little more flavor with the whole grain. So instead of just lemon juice there, I did lemon zest as well. So zest the lemon before you juice it. And 1 lemon is about 2 tablespoons. So it is a looser dough. It's very, very soft. I think you could chill it if you wanted to, make it a little easier to scoop. But I just thought it was delicious. It's not so sweet. And so here's the thing. For substituting soft wheat for white flour, you have to increase the flour. For every cup of white flour that your recipe calls for, you're going to use a 1 1/4 cup soft wheat flour, whether it's red or white, okay? So it's a 1/4 cup for every cup of white flour called for in your recipe. Does that make sense? Because of the moisture in the whole wheat flour, in the soft wheat flour. All right. So here is our pie dough. And you can see with it a little warmer, it didn't break apart as much on the edges. I use a pizza wheel and just start cutting strips. Now let me tell you something. It's so funny. When you cut them, I don't know why that end tends to get wider. You tend to go wide. So act like you're, see, even though I slanted that way, it still is wide. Don't ask me why. So, yeah. Kind of saw that yesterday. I was like, okay, I need to look like I'm just going that way, and I'm really not. So just cut strips. That one got really wide. And that end's probably going to hang off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can cut them wider or skinnier, however you want them. It's your pie. But like I said, for this, I don't weave it quite as tight as I would for a normal lattice work. Okay, so there we have our pie dough. So let's just bring our pie now and make sure y'all are in here. So we're going to start with this longest one in the middle and take it across the middle. Okay? And then I usually just kind of go to the side. Now, like I said, with a normal one, I'd probably go a little closer like that, but this one I'm going to go a little further away. Because we're going to boil this syrup and then pour over it. You know what? This one's a little breaking already. I think I'm going to use a different one. That one's wide. You want these longer ones in the middle, but don't use all of them because you got to have long ones to go the other way too. Okay. So there it is. Okay, so there's my pie that way. Now what you're going to do is start with this middle one, bring it back, and then every other one, bring it back. And take this one and lay it there. And then put these back. It's a little tedious, but it's kind of fun. I really enjoyed making them all. That did not sound good. All right, and now whatever's under, bring it back. Isn't the cookie delicious? Thank you. I'm glad you like it. So there's that. And then fold that back. And now take whatever's over and fold it back. And then take this one. So you just keep doing this. Whatever is under, fold it back. And like I said, if I were just doing a normal lattice, I would probably do it a little bit tighter than this. Okay, so under goes back that way. How'd you like the pie, though? Do you think it's really that different from any other apple pie? I couldn't tell a huge difference, but maybe that's because I added the cinnamon. Somebody's phone? All right. Okay, so now we have our lattice on. We're going to trim up the little pieces here. A little longer than the top crust. Okay, and then what you want to do is tuck these ends under that bottom crust. And then all we're going to do is boil that syrup and pour it over here, okay? Which we'll do that in just a minute. I do want to make y'all some butter real quick for the bread. This is, last year we just had started carrying the olive oil. And I just kind of discovered this for Christmas, this wild garlic we used in the mashed potatoes and one recipe we did for the Christmas class. And last year at Christmas, I usually make an herb butter. And I just decided, instead of chopping up and buying all these fresh herbs that then I won't use all of them and I've spent $10 on fresh herbs, I just used this, a couple of tablespoons of this wild garlic. Comes like this from Olivelli. And what I loved is it's green, red and green. So it was made a really pretty Christmas. And I did about a tablespoon and a half or 2 tablespoons for each stick. I was going to put this in the mixer, but I'll just mix it like this. Actually, I'm going to pass it off to them to mix. It would have been much easier to throw it in the mixer. Let's talk about powdering honey granules for the icings. I powder honey granules, not in the grain mill, in a blender, okay? So you can kind of get the gist of how pretty this looks. And then I scooped it with ice cream scoop in little bowls and sat out all over the table for everybody to enjoy. And it's really, like I said, it's red and green, and it just made a pretty color. If you want to keep stirring this, and then we're going to slice one of these, it doesn't matter which one, to let them taste. And give them a little butter with it. All right. The scones, fairly simple. Again, I grated the butter into the flour, okay? I didn't worry about grating it ahead. So now all we're going to do here let's make our syrup. Oh, there's a clean one. And honestly, I just discovered instead of, so you might want to make a note of this, instead of melting the butter and putting the flour in that and making a paste like you normally do a roux or something, I found that it got too thick too fast. and then it scorched. So what I did is I went on and added the water and everything here and just melted it all and then brought it to a boil. And that kept the butter from burning and just, it was just easier. Trying to decide if I want to make this pie like the recipe without the cinnamon. And you think I should? I think I will. So there's my sucanat and honey granules. Those of you that may be new to bread Beckers, sucanat for brown sugar, honey granules for white sugar. The nice thing about this, 1 for 1. So that white flour, white sugar recipe, the only thing I had to convert was the soft wheat, okay? So honey granules for white sugar, sucanat for brown sugar, all right? Here's my flour. And like I said, I found that this was just easier than making that paste with the butter. And the first time I did it, I forgot and dumped it all in there without reading the directions. That's why you should always read the directions all the way through when you're starting a new recipe, but who does that? So anyway, but then this morning when I did it right by the recipe, we kept scorching the butter and the flour, even on the lowest heat. So I just found that this was kind of easier because then I could just bring that temperature up to 8 or 9 to get it to boil without it worrying about it scorching. So I won't add the cinnamon and the nutmeg and the vanilla this time and see if it's different. You won't get to taste it, but maybe I'll tell you what I think. So you just want to bring this to a boil. And here's why I decided to do it this way. The first day that I made it, you know, the recipe said to make this and then let it simmer. It got so thick and almost candied. It got really hard. So yesterday I decided I was going to make all the pies and then boil my syrup for each one of them. And then that's when I went, I wanted the pies warm, so I'm just going to refrigerate it and boil all the syrup this morning. So that's another little trick I learned making it, is don't make your syrup until you've got your pie here, whether you're going to cook it right now or tomorrow or whatever. So there we go. And then all you do, and now you're going to see why you want the lattice a little open. I really thought I wasn't doing very much in this class and that I wasn't going to be running late at all. So now you just want to pour this over very, very slowly so it goes in those little holes. And that's the sauce for the pie. And you just want to do this slowly so that it doesn't spill over. Wow, the cinnamon really made it dark. This is a prettier color. And that's it. And now it bakes at 425 for 15 minutes and then reduce the heat to 350 and cook for 30, 40 minutes. You could totally, if I weren't going to do the lattice and pour it, I would probably just do this and then do maybe a light streusel topping or just a regular double pie crust on top if you wanted to just pour this over the apples. Okay. There it is. We didn't get to the scones, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Again, I grated the butter just like right into the bowl, just like I did for the pie. Any other questions? If you've never tried our cranberries, I love them because they're not sugared. They're sweetened with apple juice infused, and they're organic. I hope you enjoyed the hot chocolate and the breakfast, if you can think about that. Any of your favorite? What was your favorite? All of it? I hope, are you going to bake some of this for Thanksgiving? Yeah, I hope I showed you some really easy things to do that can make your Thanksgiving meal memorable. So, But bless you the rest of your weekend. Have a glorious day. Remember, go out praising the Lord. And remember all the good things we have to be thankful for. And he will make your feet like hinds feet. You can do the impossible with the strength of the Lord. So blessing to you. And they're going to give you some butter and bread here if you want to come get a piece. One class I said, as you pass out, you can get bread. On your way out or as you leave, be sure to get a piece of the challah bread, one of the challah breads with some of the herb garlic butter, okay? I didn't say this. I always use unsalted butter. You control the salt that's going in your recipe, and then you get more consistent results. So if you use unsalted butter and you're converting a recipe, you may realize that you have to increase the salt a little bit in that recipe. And for me, it's usually half a skin as much. God bless you all for being here. Thank you, TV Land, for joining us today. I am so glad to have you and be able to offer this class.